across the UK, online and on DAB.
The Two Mics on talkRADIO. We'll get you talking.
talkRADIO. We've been invited back for another show despite what happened yesterday, and we've got a series of questions to ask. 1. Why are Northerners still more at risk of dying younger than Southern Softies? 2. Why are fajitas Britain's #1 food? 3. Why are bowls players suddenly turning violent? And 4. Why are people taking shorter and shorter holidays? You can tweet us at The Two Mics, at talkRADIO. You can call us on 0344 499 1000. Later on in the show, we're talking to author and columnist Frederick Forsyth about why the government is so incompetent, and it's Ask Porky Day as well, where you get to ask Mr. Parry any question you like and get advice straight from the 1/3 of his heart that's actually working. You can, of course, tweet us at The Two Mics. You're listening to The Two Mics right here on talkRADIO.
The 21st century dream team of dialogue, debate and discourse. The Two Mics on talkRADIO. We'll get you talking.
So we kicked off this show yesterday. We have been invited back. It's a very,
Yes.
very big day for us. And
Delighted.
I'm delighted to say that Mr. Parry is here, looking very fit and well.
Thank you.
A very good afternoon to you, Mr. Parry.
Yeah, well, a very good afternoon to you, Mike. And I have to say that I had a real stress moment after I left you yesterday.
Did
you? We left the studios, obviously, made our way home.
Yes.
I think you may have
There was one stop on the way.
Well, one stop, yeah, but I
Yeah.
mean, it was a very short one. Now, the point is, I then get down to Stockbroker Belt, where I live, because, you know, that's where I feel comfortable in my environment. And I had need to go into a local hostelry, right? Not because I particularly wanted a drink, but I had to see somebody in there about the fact that I'm helping them promote an apple cider fair.
This is this apple festival thing you're doing, right?
Yes, that's
You're
right.
sort of hiding behind the idea that it sounds vaguely healthy. It's something to do with sort of apples and pears and,
it's to do with
summer.
cider. It's to do with cider,
Right.
and I have, you know, to help out local businesses. You know, I've decided to donate a whole case actually of porky scratchings.
Oh, donate them.
Because they form a.
I mean, you're not going to make any money out of this business.
Well,
you keep giving stuff away.
No, they form a fantastic complement to cider. Apparently, porky scratchings are the best thing to eat with cider.
Oh yeah.
So I said, well, if that's the case, I'm a porky scratchings mogul, so you can have a case of mine.
I don't think you can be a mogul until you've actually started to make an awful lot of money, like Roman Abramovich, who's about to hand half of his weekly wage to the ex-Mrs. Abramovich.
Well, in that case, that would amount to, of his fortune, $3.5 billion.
Yeah, well,
his last wife, that was his second wife, settled for $150 million.
Yes. Well, it's a drop in the ocean for him.
And according to speculation in the newspapers this morning, and I wish in no way to intrude upon Mr. Abramovich's private life,
no, of course you don't. No,
his third wife might settle for about $500 million.
Well, you know, inflation is a terrible thing.
Inflation is a terrible thing.
$150 million is not worth what it used to be.
No, it's not. You're absolutely right. The reason I know, by the way, that the first wife got $150 million is because the first thing she did with $150 million was buy a huge estate down in Stockbroker Belt, which is now, you know, sort of one of the most impressive sort of estates in the area, and all sorts of people on the surrounding areas are saying, well, easements on lands have been changed.
Well, maybe
and all
the
this
new
kind of stuff.
ex-Mrs. Abramovich will buy a similar place in a similar part of the world.
She's more likely to go to the Bahamas, in my view. Anyway, the stressful situation that I walked into last night was I go in there, and you won't believe it, but it's at a point where people go walking on the North Downs.
Oh, yes.
And this is a nice place to end.
This is not the rubbing house or whatever it's called.
It's not the rubbing house, actually. I don't want to name the place concerned.
Okay.
Anyway, there are 16 people in there, and they've all got rucksacks on.
Rucksacks?
That immediately bodes bad for me.
It's not good, no.
I mean, rucksackers to me are tantamount to a different class of person.
Yeah.
You know, they take up too much space on tube trains. They take too much space on ordinary trains when they put their rucksack on the seat next to them. They are slow and plodding people who wear big boots, and in my mind...
Do you not think you're being a bit of a generalist here?
No,
you're making a very large generalisation.
Well, this lot were ramblers. They're from a rambling club.
Because there are two kinds of people that take rucksacks with them to travel. There are people who work in London who take a rucksack over one shoulder and it's kind of limp because it's not very full.
Yeah, but
it's got their lunch in it, maybe. It's got maybe a laptop in it.
Yeah, but you see, I think that's pathetic as well.
Well, hang on. But then there are the other sort of what you would call professional rucksackers who have got the full kit.
Yes.
Right, they've got the rolled-up bedding underneath.
Yeah.
They've got this huge rucksack on their back which is packed to the gunnels.
Yes.
And looks as if it would actually explode because it's so full, right? Those are the people that you object to, not the other ones, surely.
Well, this lot I thought were ramblers until I saw one of them wearing a badge saying something and something Backpackers Association,
dear. That's
so
not
they're
good.
Backpackers. You know, they actually have to wear something that resembles a parachute.
On from the Backpackers Association.
Well, maybe.
To talk to about
but anyway, the point of my story is...
Well, the point is you've got this kind of, unnatural prejudice against them.
Well, I don't like people who walk around with huge rucksacks on their back.
Where are they supposed to carry everything?
Because carry them in a suitcase, in a briefcase.
In a suitcase?
No, a briefcase.
So they want to walk around with suitcases?
In a briefcase or a shoulder bag, as I do.
How do you feel about people that drag their suitcase on wheels behind them?
If it's on a cobbled street, I want to kill them because it makes so much noise.
Have you had that sort of any anger management lately?
No.
You seem to be very angry about all this.
But anyway,
stuff.
listen, this gets worse, right? So this backpackers club, right, 16 of them.
Yes.
And guess what? Because of the nature of the people they are inherently mean people. They don't have a...
Unlike you. They're very generous heart of hearts.
Yeah, they don't have a generosity of spirit, these lot.
Oh, yeah.
They don't sort of have a camaraderie because they all plod along in their own thoughts and all that.
Is that right?
So they get into my hostelry, right, and they order...
Did they come in after you or before you?
Just before me, this is the problem.
Okay.
I just saw the last one
that
disappearing.
was your mistake. You should have got him before him.
Yeah, 16 of them.
Yeah.
One barmaid, because it was, sort of early evening and a quiet time of the day.
Oh, yeah.
16 individuals ordered 16 individual drinks.
Yeah.
Not one of them was alcoholic.
Really?
At least 5 of them
Maybe
were...
they were all alcoholics, that's why they weren't drinking alcohol.
No, 4 or 5 of them were coffees that had to be made at the coffee machine.
Uh-huh.
I waited 12 minutes.
Well, you shouldn't have waited.
I waited 12 minutes.
I would have walked out.
To get myself served a very mild, and I mean mild, alcoholic beverage.
Yeah.
Like a pint of shandy,
Yeah.
okay. And, no, it wasn't a pint of shandy, actually.
What was it?
Well, it was something else, but it wasn't...
you can't decide what it was.
Well,
what was it?
It was a spritzer.
Glass of wine?
No, spritzer.
A spritzer?
Spritzer,
Nice.
I just remembered.
Summery drink.
Yeah, that's right, yeah, spritzer, yeah.
White wine spritzer or a red wine spritzer?
White. Whilst I was waiting to speak to the person in charge of the apple cider fair, where my porky scratchings will be sold.
Okay.
And I have
this is the start of the show, and we've nearly finished the first section of the show talking about nothing.
No.
Absolutely nothing.
No. They should be banned from pubs. That's what I'm saying. They should be banned from pubs. First of all, pubs shouldn't serve coffee because coffee should be served in coffee shops
a very old
and coffee houses.
I
know.
You've been on about this for years.
But it keeps coming back.
Well,
and
it comes
secondly,
back because we don't want pubs to turn back into no-go areas for women, children and nice people.
Neither do I.
We don't want pubs to turn into these kind of blackout areas where only drunks can hang
neither do
about
I.
and people are lying around on the floor.
But in my view, the member of the bar staff should have said, excuse me, people, I want to serve a real customer first who's coming here to buy a real drink.
Well, how about
not to
this?
have half a cup of coffee.
How about this? If they are placed as they are on the North Downs of Surrey, more than likely they should expect large groups of ramblers to come and visit them.
Yeah.
Why don't they have a couple of people in the back who can come out
Good idea.
and serve more than one person at a time?
The Ramblers Bar.
Well, they should just have somebody sitting behind the scenes who can come out and help you out.
Yeah, well, you'd think so, wouldn't you?
I mean, I was in a place not far from here, not a pub, but a sort of coffee establishment, you might say.
Yes.
One of those places, of which there are very many in the cut. Yeah. And I went in one morning as I was on my way in here to get a cup of coffee, and there was 2 people in front of me, and the woman behind the counter was so slow and useless that I walked out.
You walked out?
And I didn't wait anything like 12 minutes. I waited about 2 minutes, and I thought, this is ridiculous.
Point is, I had business to do there. It was very, very upsetting, I have
where
to
was
say.
the person you had to meet?
They were upstairs, you see, and they were like putting together some sort of presentation on a laptop and all that kind of stuff. But I had to indicate that I was there, and they would have come down. It was very frustrating.
Presentation on a laptop? For a cider festival?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Are you serious?
No, I'm not serious.
Too
Don't
serious.
you know these things? You have to do them professionally.
Really?
You're not slapdash or anything like that.
Is that right? Well, we've got more important things to talk about than your pub goings after the show. Okay, if you don't mind, we've got to talk about the North-South divide.
Yep.
We've got to talk about fajitas. We've got to talk about why people playing bowls have suddenly turned violent.
Yeah.
Like some kind of Tarantino movie on the bowling green.
Yeah.
And also, of course, it is Ask Porky coming up a little bit later on. All you got to do is tweet us at the 2 mics at talkRADIO because Porky is here to answer any questions that you may have. Now, if you haven't heard this show before, you might not realise that his advice stretches over all sorts of arenas.
It certainly does.
Such as, you can answer sporting questions, you can answer personal problem questions.
Romantic questions.
Questions about holidays.
Yes.
Questions about, the financial situation that you may find yourself in.
People's ambitions in work.
Yes.
In romance.
A lot of people ask for advice on sort of a dilemma sometimes that they have.
Dilemmas that they have.
For example, if you weren't sure whether to leave school and go straight to university or go straight into a job, because university now is an absolute and utter worthless waste of time.
What's a worthless waste of time?
Going to university for a lot of people
I totally agree.
is a worthless waste of time. Not only worthless, but also ends up costing you. I mean, you hear all these people whining and groaning that they've been to university and they now owe £25,000 to some student loan company. And then they thought Jeremy Corbyn was going to get rid of it for them, but apparently that's not going to happen.
No.
So,
shouldn't have wasted their time going to university and being a bum for 3 years.
Exactly, they should have. So, here's what you do. You tweet us at the 2 mics, you tweet us at talkRADIO. You can, of course, call us if you wish to as well. I'll give you that. Now, do you want to give the number out, actually?
Yes, I do.
In the non-mangled way that you can.
Yes.
Do you know what it is?
Yes, of course I do.
Well, go on then.
Please call 0344.
Yes.
499
Go on.
1000.
Very good.
That's the non-mangled mouth version. We want to hear from you folks because I need support here, because what we're going to talk about next is the North-South divide. The new issue is, do you live longer living in the South by up to 5 years than you do living in the North?
Yeah, not in your case. This is Talk Radio.
Across the UK, online and on DAB.
The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
Talk Radio, we are the Two Mics. Guys, says Ben, could you give my mum Maureen Richards a shout out? She's been a bit low and she loves you too. How about that, Maureen?
Maureen Richards?
Yes. Maureen,
I want to say, is it a birthday or anything like that?
It is a birthday, yeah.
It is. Are you sure?
No.
No, exactly.
It's not a birthday.
So it's Maureen's feeling a bit low today.
Yeah, yes.
So this is the Two Mics.
Yeah.
Maureen, we want to lift you up to the high heavens.
No, I don't know whether she's from the north of England or the south of England.
Well, that doesn't matter. As long as you have a good
it
day,
does
Maureen.
Matter. Well, apparently it does matter.
You're part of our flock.
Apparently it does matter. If you live in the north of England, you've got more chance of not living as long.
Yeah, you see, I can't stand these
Maybe
surveys.
when you live in the north of England, it just feels like you're living longer. Maybe that's what it is. Let's talk to Daryl Morris, who's, of course, a northerner, a guy that will tell us whether he likes it up there or whether he wants to, like you, abandon the north and move south. Daryl, a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon from the greatest place, the centre of the universe.
Yeah, what, you're in London?
Here we go again, you see.
Well, I mean, you're not going to seriously tell me, Daryl, that wherever you are, if you're not in London, is actually more the centre of the universe than London, surely?
Please, come on, please. I mean, let's just have a quick look at the facts here, shall we?
Well, why don't you tell us where you are first? You're in Rochdale or something?
Okay. I'm in Manchester. I'm born and bred in Bolton. I live in Manchester at the moment. Yeah,
great cities. Great city, Darryl. One of the great cities, in my view. One of the great cities.
It is. Listen. Where I am right now, this is the city of ambition and endeavour. This is the city of Jodrell Bank, just down the road from me. We've got the Lovell Telescope.
It's unfortunate, isn't it?
That searches space for intelligent life. Listen.
It's not a bank. It's not a bank, Mike. Sorry, just put him right. It's not a bank. It's a telescope.
It's also slang for something which I don't want to talk about.
No, well, your smutty southern mind would
That's
turn
not true.
to that.
Jose Mourinho, the world's greatest football manager, doesn't even want to live there. He's in a hotel.
Well, that's not because he doesn't want to live here. That's because he's trying to figure out where is the best place to get himself a house. As he said, the reason that he stayed in the hotel is because he was trying to get himself a house. Don't try and twist that one.
Hang on. What do you mean? Excuse me. Don't accuse me of trying to twist it, Daryl. He's been up there for over a year. He can't find a house in a year. Is that what you're telling me?
These things take time. Listen, Jodrell Bank is scouring the universe, by the way, for intelligent life.
I don't know why you keep going on about Jodrell Bank.
It'll be done here from the north of England. We're also not only did we clothe the world in the Industrial Revolution, not only did we change the world and transform the economy for everybody.
Do you know what you're sounding like, Daryl? Do you know what you're sounding like?
Could you let Daryl just finish, Mike? Just let him finish, please. Go on, Daryl.
We're also developing graphene down the road as well. I don't know if you've heard of graphene down there in your
there's a Chinese underwear company using it apparently now.
It's going to change the world. It's going to revolutionise the way that people access drinking water in some of the most impoverished countries in the world.
Indeed, and Rochdale.
We are the birthplace. Possibly, yeah. We are the birthplace of the suffragette movement. Where from adversity and from oppression came.
You see, can I let him finish? He's never going to stop now.
Now, Daryl,
let me just ask him one thing.
What you need to say is you need to use that great expression, the dark satanic mills that were the bedrock of the British Empire, which spread wealth and goodness and munificence around the world. That all came from Manchester.
I don't think Dark Satanic Mills was a compliment, by the way.
No, Dark Satanic Mills was a compliment because it was written by one of our great poets to describe the heartbeat of the Industrial Revolution.
So satanic is a good thing, you think?
Well, the expression satanic is a very good thing because it's a description of architecture. Now, Daryl, have you ever thought about moving to the south? I am a boy from the north. I come from Chester, another great city, and eventually, I got suckered into moving south just to try and improve my career prospects. How did you resist that, Daryl?
Didn't even cross my mind. Never even crossed my mind. If I need to do any work in the south of England, I can get there and back in a day. It's no problem. The railway is fine. Speaking of railways, by the way, of course we've had We've had a huge investment in infrastructure in the south of England at the same time that the electrification of the line between Leeds and Manchester, which really could have cemented that ambition of having a northern powerhouse, has been stripped away by our government. The government institutionally anti-northern, clearly.
They are.
Not only in that, but in the money that they spend on education, on health.
Why would you say that? Because you know how many people voted for this government in the north of England is absolutely huge. You look at the map of who voted for what. The only people that voted for Corbyn are in the inner cities of places like Manchester and London, by the way. But also, the whole rural north votes Tory.
Yeah, but how many times have we seen turkeys vote for Christmas? That doesn't mean anything.
So you're saying all northerners are idiots for voting for this government? Is that what you're telling me?
No, they're not. No, they're not idiots for voting for this government, but it's there in the stats. It's there in the stats, isn't it, that this government is clearly anti-northern? I mean...
Well, why do people keep voting for them, then?
In the first bruising few years of government cuts, it showed that northern cities and boroughs were losing...
Why have you turned this into a political argument, Daryl? The point is, right, the trouble is, when you stand there and you say, Manchester's great for this, the north is great for that, we've got the suffragette movement, it sounds like somebody desperately trying to make up for some inadequacy or other, right?
No, just giving you the history of things.
No, the Scots do this all the time. In Scotland, they do this all the time. They go, we invented Tar Macadam, we invented electricity, we invented time travel.
We invented the television.
There's no need to kind of keep pushing some agenda to make out that you're great. We all live in the same country. We all love the same country that we live in. There's no reason to make a divide between the north and the south. I'm telling you that most people in the north want to come to London for a night out. And if you don't want to do that, then stay where you are. That's absolutely fine. But there's no point in trying to pretend that Manchester is as big a city or as great a city or as diverse a city as London. It's just not the case.
You may think that there is no need for me to debate this point. You may think that there is no need for me to be so passionate and to push my point. But clearly there is, because people like you think that there is a north set of
people like me? What do you know about me, Daryl? You know nothing about me.
Well, I know as it stands that you believe that you are superior because you are Southern.
No, I don't. I just believe I'm superior because I am me.
And also, more to the point, really, actually, these stats that have come out today clearly show that you are disadvantaged for living in the north of England to the tune of dying earlier. And you're telling me that I don't need to come on here?
Well, why do you think that is? Well, why do you think that is, Daryl? Why do you think that is?
I think it's because we are underfunded. I think it's because we are...
Oh, throw more money at it, then.
Listen, Daryl, you have the advantage of being able to drive 1.5 hours up the M6 and then spend time in the most beautiful part of the world, the Lake District, right? So I don't understand this survey. People can relax and get their heads together in the Lake District in a way you can't if you're driving around the M25 all the time. So I don't believe this survey. I think more people die of stress and angst living in the southeast of England because life and the pace of life in the north of England is acceptably slower because it's a better place to live. I would like to retire to Northumberland and walk around the Kielder Forest for a while.
The Kielder Forest?
Yeah.
Sure, but also our NHS is not as efficient. Our healthcare is not as good. We are.
Well, why do you say that? Why do you say that? It's not. It's not.
That's rubbish.
Doctors don't suddenly say, "Oh, look, these are northern people. I'm not going to try as hard to cure them."
Hang on, our wages. No, that's clearly not the way it works, is it? But our wages are lower.
Well, the cost of living in London is a lot higher, Daryl. Daryl, the cost of living in London is a lot higher than it is in Manchester. Don't you agree?
Maybe, but the opportunities, the choices, the chances that you have in the south of England, they're far superior, aren't they?
Well, why don't you come down here then? You want a better job? Come to London.
Because this is a beautiful part of the world. This is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful part of the world. And currently we're being done a disservice. And, by the way, can I just say that in light of the fact that we are underfunded, under-resourced, underappreciated...
I think you're very confused, Daryl.
Hang on. With our hand held behind our back, we have still managed to be global pioneers. We have still managed to...
See, listen, you're going back to all that nonsense. Just get over yourself and enjoy life, and if you want to have a better life and a richer life and a more fulfilling life and meet more interesting people, come to London, mate.
Yeah, you created you people up there created what is now Britain itself. We just shifted south because the River Thames is there.
By the way,
it's as simple as that.
Let's finish on the dark satanic. Let's finish on those dark satanic mills that you love so much, Daryl. Do you know who wrote that?
I didn't hear that. Say again.
Do you know who wrote the Dark Satanic Mills line?
No, go on.
It was William Blake.
That's right.
So you never heard of William Blake?
Blakey. Not the guy from On the Bus.
Not the guy from On the Bus. No. He's never heard of William Blake. Well, I think I'll rest my case.
Of course he has. Anyway.
By the way, born in Soho.
No, Darryl, thank you very much indeed for putting up with the abuse and the verbose...
I think he's just proved the point, hasn't he?
Verbose, excessive chatter of my broadcasting partner, MG, who is just one of these sort of guys who gets a nosebleed if he goes north of Hampstead, where he was born amongst the lovies. Thank you very much indeed.
Darryl, well played, mate, but I'm sorry, it's 1-0 to us. This is Talk Radio, we are the two mics.
The 21st century dream team of dialogue, debate and discourse. The two mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
Hey! The sun goes down like a bad, bad dream. You'll end up tight. Gotta let off steam. They say they can break you again and again. If life is a radio, turn up to 10. It's a crazy, crazy.
This is Talk Radio, we are the two mics. We've got lots going on. We're going to be talking about Neanderthals a bit later on. No coincidence, of course. We were talking to a guy called Darryl up there in the north of England, who apparently has gone down rather badly with some of the people listening to this show, including a lot of people in the north of England.
Yeah.
Ben says this Darryl guy's full of it. Typical Labour-supporting victim, full of excuses and BS.
Well,
and Wardy says Darryl doesn't sound very much like a friendly stranger.
Yeah, we don't have any prejudices here about people's politics.
We certainly don't.
It's a free country and all that. But, I mean, I did try to put him on the straight and narrow, and I mentioned the dark satanic mills.
You've never heard of William Blake?
I'd never heard of William Blake.
That's not very good, is it?
But anyway, there you go.
Here's one from Jane. He says, get that bloke Darryl off now, bigoted plank.
Yeah, well.
Will says, I used to live in Barnet and now live in Harrogate. It's like moving from hell to heaven. London is aggressive and rude.
Yeah, Harrogate, I love it. It's a beautiful
yeah, but I mean, it's
city.
Nonsense, isn't it?
A lot of Leeds players live there.
But isn't it nonsense to say, you know, people in London are rude and everyone in the north of England's nice to you?
Yeah.
That's just rubbish, isn't it?
No. Listen.
There's plenty of friendly people in London. I know loads of them.
My porky scratchings are made in Wigan.
Yes.
Right, so whenever I ring up the factory, I get a lovely lady on the phone
How
saying...
often do you ring up the factory?
2 or 3 times a week.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
To check
Just
on...
to talk to somebody?
No. To check on the production schedules.
And how is the production schedules? How often do they have to close down the rest of the operation in order to make your scratchings?
They have a team of people working 24 hours a day producing porky scratchings, okay?
Really?
Just to let you know that, right?
Okay. Yeah, I know.
We have
They're
to
not all
supply,
going into your packet,
we have to supply over 1,000 outlets in Essex. But
Can you not turn this into some kind of mass... I mean, so far we've been on the air for about half an hour.
Yeah.
For about 10 minutes of that, we talked about your outside interests commercially.
Not at all. By the way, I like the idea that these policemen have a team deviant within their organisation.
It sounds like that's actually something they've asked for.
That's right.
Well, who's the team deviant today?
The judge branded him as the team deviant. I mean, that's like, he was playing backstop, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, it's like the guy over there's the team leader, the one over there makes the team, and the other bloke's the team deviant.
Yeah.
Top man.
But anyway, whenever
Shocking, by the way, what he was up to.
It was
but
terrible.
Story.
Whenever I ring up the factory in Wigan, a lady answers the phone and says, "Hello, love. How are you today?
Yeah.
Is everything all right? Oh, yeah, great. Grand. I said, how are you? I'm grand. Good. I said, how's things? Oh, everything's grand up here. It's grand in the north. And she doesn't actually say that, but I mean, that's the impression
you get, yeah.
Yeah, you do. I mean, you do. I think people in the north are much more easygoing with their relationships
I don't agree.
other people.
I really don't think you can make those kinds of ridiculous kind of comparisons because, for example, if you go to South Wales, right?
Yes.
Everybody who lives north of where you live
hello, boyo.
is basically a sort of a word that we won't be able to say on the station.
Yes.
But, they regard everyone sort of anywhere north of where they live to be backward and sort of peasant-like and troll-like, if you like.
Who's troll-like? People in North Wales?
No, I'm saying anywhere in South Wales that you live. So, for example, if you live in Cardiff, right, anyone who lives
in the
anywhere...
Mumbles in Swansea?
Or the Mumbles in Swansea. Anywhere north of there, like, for example, the Brecon Beacons, is some kind of backward plank, right? If you live in the Brecon Beacons up towards Shrewsbury, anybody north of there is similarly, categorised like that.
I think that is very harsh.
And I mean, you will always get these ridiculous generalisations. I mean, I was saying to Marta earlier on, isn't it interesting that in European countries, some places, particularly Spain and Italy, it's the opposite way round.
Yeah.
The northerners in Italy regard the southerners as sort of backward and rather stupid.
Well, that's because it's all like mafia, isn't it, down south?
Well, no, it's not just that. It's because all the industrial north and the civilised part of Italy was considered to be the north. It's the same in Spain. You've got Barcelona,
How
you've got
old
Madrid.
do you think Italy as a country is?
How old?
Yeah.
It is as old can be. I mean, you're talking
it's not
about...
even 100 years.
Well, no, of course it's older than that.
It's not.
What are you talking about?
Less than 100 years ago, Italy was 38 separate states.
But Italy, there's always been... mean,
Garibaldi, the man who invented the biscuit, pulled them all together.
Italy. What about the Romans? What do you think? What do you think they were doing?
What do you mean?
Where were the Romans from?
Well, yeah, but the Romans have the Roman Empire.
Yeah, but Italy.
No. When all the Roman Empire collapsed and all that, and then in the Middle Ages, everyone took a bit of Italy. It was 38 different states.
Old. Absolute rubbish.
I'm telling you, it's 38.
I'm telling you.
I'm telling you, Jimmy. And then when old Mussolini came along and decided, El Duce, bring it all together. I make the trains run on time. He didn't do a very good job.
Well, he did a very good job of making the trains run on time. He just wasn't so good at making the tanks go forwards.
No, that's right. Now, I'm not having that.
I don't know why.
That's a shocking, racist Italian joke.
Don't call me racist.
It certainly is.
Take that back.
No,
you can't call me racist.
All right, I will apologise for that, but that is specific to Italians.
No, it's not.
This dreadful joke my father first told me at 10 that Italian tanks were made with one forward gear and four reverse gears. Well, I'm saying we're not doing things like that.
The trouble with you is you have no subtlety, right?
Right.
What you do is you beat everything to death.
No.
Okay, I'm going to look up how old Italy is.
Okay. Now, while you're doing that, let me tell you this. You are probably the worst example of what happens to a marriage after you've got married.
What?
You probably are. I mean,
what do you mean I'm the worst
Well, your
example?
marriage was going wrong even before you got married.
That's not true.
I know that because I knew you before and after you got married.
That's not true.
In America.
No, that's not true.
It was going south even before you walked up the aisle.
That's absolute rubbish.
Now, the reason I say this is because, you see, I'm very suspicious of couples like this. Celebrating 75 years of wedded bliss.
You're suspicious of a nice old couple.
It's something very few of us will be able to achieve. But even more astonishing, I'm going to tell you, is that Tim and Dorothy Walter, what a name.
Walter
Tim and Dorothy,
PPK.
Yeah, that's right. What's your name? Tim Waller, PPK. Tim and Dorothy Walter, who have reached that remarkable landmark, have never fought in all their years together. Well, I don't believe it. In 75 years, they've said to have never had a row. Eh? Can you believe that?
No, I can't believe that.
Do you know what?
There are some people who get along terribly well with each other, and they are made for each other. Yesterday we had a guy on talking about how difficult it is to find the one, right?
Yes.
These people have obviously found the one for each other.
Yes.
I don't think you should be so negative about it.
They're from the south, and they met, believe it or not. This is fantastic, actually. They're both 96, which is a fantastic age. And I've got a picture of them here on my information screen, and they look very well and healthy.
Yeah.
And they met at the Spitfire factory in Southampton during the Second World War.
All right.
Isn't that incredible?
Well, not really, no.
It is.
Well, because they were both working there.
Yeah. Anyway, they're still going, and I have to say they deserve their telegram from the Queen.
Yes.
Congratulate them on 75 years. But what I'm saying is...
Do you get one of those then, do you?
Yeah, I suppose
You've been married for 75 years.
Yeah. As good as they are at marriage, you are the opposite.
I wouldn't say that.
The worst.
No, I've only been in one marriage.
Well, yeah, I know, because that was so bad that nobody would ever commit themselves to you again.
That's not true.
No, it was shocking.
That's not true.
Come on. I don't want to get into detail,
I was
but it was
married
pretty
for 14 years, right? Many of those years were perfectly good.
None
of those years were perfectly enjoyable.
No, none of them were good.
No, you don't know that.
I do.
You don't know that. You're a born liar is your problem. You just make stuff up to try and make points against me.
I think I've probably known you longer than anybody else. I knew you before you married.
You haven't known me longer than anybody else at all. You've known me...
Well, apart from your sister.
Apart from my sister. And apart from lots of other people that I met before I met you.
Yeah, who you don't know now. Anyway, listen, talking about marriages, of course, on a marriage theme.
Yes.
Mr. Abramovich, I imagine, will be in very deep conversation with his accountants and lawyers today. I
don't think he's going to be bothered, actually.
It was announced yesterday. Well, of course he'd be bothered because it was announced yesterday. He separated from his third wife, the very lovely Dasha Zhukova. And he had 10-year marriage, though. So,
why are you describing her like that?
Because she's a very good-looking lady,
and
I don't see anything wrong with describing ladies as...
Right, you don't think it's a bit sexist?
No, of course it's not sexist.
Well, you didn't describe how he looks.
Well, he's
how would you describe him?
It doesn't matter. Because
the very lovely Roman Abramovich.
No, he's a billionaire, and so it doesn't matter.
Well, it doesn't matter what he looks like.
No, you've got to remember...
Well, then, it's sexist, then.
Say again.
That is sexist,
no,
then,
it's not sexist
You're
at all.
You're describing the way she looks, but you're not describing the way he looks.
No, there's no need to describe the way he looks, because everybody knows his face. He's one of the most famous men in the world. So that's why I have not had any need to express a facial recognition factor of Roman Abramovich. Okay?
I see, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Now, the point is that when he separated from his second wife, he settled a divorce bill of 150 million, which we mentioned earlier. This one could be 500 million.
Yeah, I know.
He's got a fleet of four yachts.
When was he divorced from the second wife? How many years ago?
10 years ago.
10 years. See, I would say that's the cost of living. 150 million 10 years ago.
500
is
million
probably
today.
about the same as 500 million today. But I don't imagine that he'll be terribly bothered about it. I don't mean that it won't be a difficult time for him.
Yeah.
But I mean, in terms of the money, he's got so much of it that it doesn't really... It won't impact on him one iota. He won't suddenly have to think, do I sell my yacht?
No.
Do I, downsize the building that I've got in London that I live in? I don't think so.
I think you're probably right, because... when I looked at the incredible wealth that he's accumulated in life, I mean, for instance, he's got 4 homes in Russia. And they're called, like, dakows, you know what I mean?
Yes.
These great sort of villas that have outside Moscow. Dakas, outside Moscow. And
it's in the time, by the way.
Yeah, in the time. He's got... he's putting together a massive house by knocking together 3 brownstones in New York.
Right.
He's got a house worth £150 million, apparently, in London.
Yeah.
He's got his own private jet, which is worth £57 million.
Well, his yacht's worth about 100 million, isn't it?
1.5 billion.
Billion?
The biggest one in the fleet, but he's got 4.
That's right, actually, because the guy who put the wrong petrol in it
that's right.
75 million.
That's right, something like that.
To clean it out.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've got loads more to do. We haven't got a lot of time to do it in
No.
because we haven't even talked about some of the big subjects of the day.
That's right.
We will be getting to those very, very shortly. We are the Two Mics. This is Talk Radio.
Indeed.
Across the UK, online and on DAB.
The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
Now, that music was Streets with No Name,
Yes,
okay?
Streets with No Name by
U2.
U2, yes.
Now, the best bit of that record is that riff, isn't it, by The Edge, which
Yes.
opens it all up.
Yeah.
And The Edge, of course, is really called David Evans.
He is.
He's 56 today. It's
Is
his
he?
birthday. That's why we're celebrating with a bit of U2.
Well, that's funny because my birthday's tomorrow.
Your birthday's tomorrow, yeah.
So we could celebrate together, couldn't we?
Not really, because you're on different days.
And he's on tour at the moment as well with
He
U2.
is
They're
on
doing
tour.
the Joshua Tree 30-year anniversary.
That's right, he
Yeah.
absolutely is. But I think we can reveal to the world, can't we, that you actually met him quite recently.
I did, yeah. Why do you want to reveal that?
Well, because I think you were a bit reluctant to talk about it when you actually met him,
because they're
because
quite
at the
sort of-
time they were recording in a studio in New York.
That's true, they were, yeah. I was over in New York in March.
Yes.
And as you know, one of our regular guests on the show, Steve Lillywhite, happens to be their producer.
That's right.
And he invited me down to meet him because, bizarrely, even though we talked to him loads on the radio,
Yes.
we'd never actually met.
Yes.
Because he now lives in Jakarta. And he said, why don't you, he said, I'm in New York. He said, why don't you pop down to the studios where we're making the album?
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
Very nice
What?
invitation.
You're making what album? He's like, I'm making the U2 album. And I was like, okay. And when I got there, they weren't around because they were, like most rock stars. You know, it was sort of late morning. They weren't sort of up yet.
No.
You know, so even though they're quite clean guys, I think they work quite late into the night.
Yeah.
But then he before I left, he and I went out and had a spot of lunch. You know, he showed me some of the
Steve
cool
Lillywhite.
stuff in the studio and all that. And it was I've always loved rock music and rock, recordings and all that.
Yeah, you're a groupie, basically.
So I was fascinated to see the
rock
way that it all
groupie.
goes on. Yeah, well, I don't mind admitting that.
Following the Who around as a teenager,
I did.
you know, and making a fool of yourself, you know.
I never made a fool of myself.
You know, break dancing in front of the stage and all that kind of stuff.
I've never done breakdancing.
Anyway, tell us about meeting the Edge.
So then the Edge turned up because he was the first one to come down there, and he was very gracious and very nice.
Did he have a hat on?
Chat. He did have a hat. Yeah, he wears like a beanie hat all
That's
the time.
right, yeah.
He was wearing that.
Yeah.
And then Adam Clayton came as well.
The drummer?
Who was... no, he's the bass player.
Oh, the bass player, sorry.
Yeah.
Has he got the blonde hair?
And he's the blonde-haired guy that used to go out with Naomi Campbell.
That's right, yes, that's right. Yeah, that's a guy,
and when I was introduced to him, Steve said, this is Mike Graham from Talk Sport. He went, Talk Sport, like you listen to it, you know.
Yes.
So that was a very nice few hours I spent there.
Excellent.
And I can't say any more about it, really, 'cause I've sworn to secrecy.
Yeah, sworn to secrecy.
But thanks for telling everyone.
No, I thought I'd let you know, because, of course, they are known as a group from Dublin, but, in fact, David Evans, otherwise known as The Edge, was actually born in London.
He was, yeah.
And raised in Ireland, and he says in a little note that's gone out today, you know, I don't know if it's to celebrate his birthday or not, but he says that the greatest moment of his life was the fact that he was the first ever rock star to play in the Sistine Chapel.
Is that right?
Now, the Sistine Chapel, of course, is the Pope's chapel.
Well, it's not the Pope's.
It is.
Well, the Pope has kind of what you might regard as sort of direct the seigneur over it because it's in the Vatican.
Yeah, but it's the Sistine Chapel.
But it doesn't belong to the Pope.
But it's where the Pope prays.
But it belongs to the Vatican, though.
Yeah, of course it does. But what I'm saying is, if the Pope wants to, you know, do a Hail Mary or something, he goes to the Sistine Chapel.
Well, he says, take me to the Sistine Chapel.
No, he knows where the Sistine Chapel is, because it's inside the Vatican City, which is in itself a state.
Yes.
So, anyway,
it's got its own soldiers and its strange uniforms, hasn't it?
It's got everything. It's got its own banker and everything. I mean, we literally, this country, and we're going to talk to Frederick Forsyth later in the show about government of this country, but one of the arms of government of this country is that we have an ambassador at the Vatican City.
Yes.
I mean, amazingly.
Well, so does everybody else,
Which is about, like 1 square mile. But anyway, he goes off to the Sistine Chapel and he said, growing up in Ireland, you learn that if you want to be asked back to your local church after doing a gig, it's important to thank the parish priest for the loan of the hall.
Yeah.
So before I left, I thanked Pope Francis for allowing us to use the most beautiful parish hall in the world.
Yes.
The Sistine Chapel.
The Sistine Chapel, which is very nice.
That's quite...
Well, they're a fantastic band, you two. I mean, Bono has now become possibly not only one of the richest rock stars of all time, one of the richest people of all time, because he invested in Facebook.
He invested in some hedge fund as well.
No. Well, yeah, he does all that. But, I mean, the reason he's so wealthy is because he actually bought a load of shares in Facebook before it went massively global.
Pretty good.
And made hundreds of millions of pounds, I think.
Very good.
Quite remarkable stuff.
Yes.
Anyway, we've still got lots more to talk about. A couple more tweets to read in for you. I've got one here from Toby Gillies, who's tweeted.
Toby!
You know Toby, who used to play that game with us.
Well...
What?
I mean, sadly, I ruined his life, didn't I?
Well, you did.
Because I invented the refrain.
Yeah, you did.
Toby, nobody.
You did.
Toby,
you did.
nobody.
And he's obviously now feeling the pinch here because he says, I've been given a new role and will be appearing on the Two Mics Talk Radio after 2 p.m.
Excellent.
Always a nerve-wracking experience.
Yes. Well, why is that a nerve-wracking experience?
I don't know.
You know,
well, probably because you're always insulting him.
I never do that.
Which is shocking.
I never do that.
Now, here's one from Steve the Cabbie. He says, I wonder if Porky will give MG a birthday shout-out tomorrow without a £10 charge. Maybe you'll bring in some Porky scratchings.
Well, you know, I'm very happy to help celebrate your birthday tomorrow, even though you have absolutely pointedly not invited me to share your celebrations after the show finishes at 4 o'clock.
Well, it's a family affair, you know, it's nothing to do with you.
Yeah, you don't regard me as family then?
No, of course not.
You don't?
Why would I?
Well,
you're not part of my family.
You know, but
God.
I've been a big part of your life and all
You've
that.
You've been a big part of my life. You cost me millions of pounds.
No, I haven't cost you millions of pounds. I've made you millions of pounds.
Well, you've made me millions of pounds, but we've still got a long way to go to make up for the loss of the apartment in New York.
Well,
I'm sorry to tell you.
That's because you couldn't organise your life properly. The fact that I had to go to Washington DC because I was needed there as the US political editor, you know, is not my fault.
Not for very long, though, right?
And other things then cropped up, which were even better opportunities.
Yes,
which I went back to.
Here's another one from Steve. Porky's always having a pop at MG about his marriage. Has Porky found anyone to marry him yet? Answers on a postcard.
Well, I explained all that yesterday.
Pork.
You know, you've only got a 1 in 562 chance of finding the right one. I wasn't prepared to compromise. As a result of which, I didn't leave in my wake, you know, a divorced wife and children from broken marriages and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm more responsible than that.
I think you're just jealous because you mention it all the time. You're particularly vitriolic about it. I mean, would you sit here with Roman Abramovich and say, look at the state of you. You've got the morals of an alley cat. You've left 2 wives in your wake, you disgusting, absolutely awful person.
No. Because
you wouldn't, because he's wealthier than you, and you'd be worried he might give you a slap.
No. What I would say is that he's one of the most successful businessmen in the world. He is.
So it's all right for him to behave like that.
Well, he's able to compensate properly people for whom he has been responsible and will remain responsible for the rest of their lives.
Are you saying I didn't do that?
Well, you know, your alley cat
you know
lifestyle.
That I did. You know that I did.
Your alley cat lifestyle.
I mean, the trouble with you is that once again you veer away from the truth so rapidly that you forget what you've said. My children are very happy with me. My ex-wife was very well provided for, and nobody's got any complaints.
Yes, well, you say that.
I say that because it's true.
Well, you know, we can sort of brush over that a bit because I really don't think that a full examination of your domestic life and your marital historical record would endear you to any of our listeners.
OK, well, let's just talk about your sad, lonely, pathetic life instead then, shall we?
No, because I haven't got one like that.
No, you have.
Listen, do you know, a new report says that millions of us are now too busy to shower each day on a regular basis or even to eat.
What?
No, I don't get this.
What sort of idiots come out with that rubbish?
Well, somebody's come up with this survey. You know, these surveys are around all over the place at the moment. But I have to say, I can't excuse people who haven't got time to shower. I don't know how you come out of the house in the morning without doing that.
Well, maybe you haven't got a shower. If somebody hasn't got a shower, that would be the only reason, really, wouldn't it?
No, everybody's got a shower.
Everybody has not got a shower.
Of course they have.
Well, you're like the sort of one of those people that thinks everybody's got a washing machine in their West Wing. Is that,
no, not at all. Everybody can have a shower because all you've got to do is, you know, put the shower head unit onto your bath if you haven't got a proper shower. Put up a shower rail and then put a plastic curtain inside the bath, not outside the bath. So if you do that, you'll flood the apartment below.
What if you haven't got the money to do that?
Well, it doesn't cost anything.
Really?
Costs 12 quid.
What, 12 quid to do what?
To buy something to adapt your bath into a shower.
Right, but then you can't have a standing shower, though. You have to then hold it, right?
No. All you do is you get an iron pole or something.
An iron pole?
Well, it's not an iron pole.
Do-it-yourself plumbing?
Yeah, it's an aluminium pole.
So you buy just stick a pole into the top of the bath?
No, all you do is this.
Yeah.
You get a pole from B&Q and you, fix it to the wall at the tap end of your bath.
You fix it to the wall?
Yes.
With what?
Well, with a drill and a screwdriver, you idiot.
Now you've got to buy a drill?
No, you get somebody to do it,
so you bring somebody in? You have no concept of what people are fighting with here when they haven't got any money.
Then you go back to B&Q and buy a length.
So far you've had to go to B&Q twice, you've had to hire somebody.
No, you can buy it all at the same time.
You've had to buy a pole, you've had to somehow get yourself somebody who's got a drill. I mean, this is already sounding quite complicated.
Do you know how easy it is to put up a shower rail?
Well, it doesn't sound that easy.
They're spring-loaded.
They're
spring-loaded, so all you do is,
But where do you hang it from?
You don't hang it. It's spring-loaded between two walls, and the suckers in the walls push out, and that's your shower rail. In between time, you put your shower curtain on.
What if your bathroom has got a massive, great big... your bathroom hasn't actually got a narrow part that you can put it on?
Yeah, well, then you hang it from the ceiling.
You hang it from the ceiling?
Yeah.
Well, how?
What do you mean, how?
Well, how?
Well, you put a bracket on the ceiling and the curtain
put
rail...
a bracket on the ceiling. You make it all sound very simple.
Well, it is very simple.
You couldn't do any of that.
I wouldn't have to do any of that because I would pay a bloke with a drill to do it for me.
And how much does that cost?
20 quid.
20.
That's all it would cost.
Are you sure?
What I do is I find workmen working on other people's properties and I go to them and say, look, during your lunch break, come and fix this for me. I'll give you 25 quid. And they always do it.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, where do you find them, though?
Well, you find them anywhere.
You just wander into somebody's house?
No, you idiot. If you live in an apartment block, there's always something going on. There's always some maintenance going on or something like that.
Oh, okay.
If you've got an apartment in a new development, then there's always workmen around. Every time I get a new apartment or something like that, I go and find a bloke who, is a football fan, start chatting football and say, listen, by the way, mate, what time are you knocking off today? It's 5 o'clock. Say, right, tell you, I'll come to my place. I want you to put up all my bathroom cabinets, mirrors, seriously.
You can't do that in an hour.
Yeah, I can. Shower rails, kitchen cabinets, or, if I need an extra one, hanging mirrors and all that kind of stuff. They do it all. It's easy.
What about
50
these
quid.
people that are saying that people are too... How can you be too busy to have a shower?
Well, I don't know about this. Modern life has left millions of Britons too busy to shower, even to sit down to eat. Now, the sit down to eat bit I can understand, but what I can't stand are people who eat in the street. If I see somebody eating in the street, I feel like pushing them off the edge of the pavement.
Why?
Well, I think it's so uncivilised.
Well, it's not really. Sometimes,
I think it is.
Well, I mean, what you see now an awful lot of, right, is people when they're going out for lunch now, they don't go out for lunch like we used to go out for lunch, which was to go out and go to a bar or go to a wine bar or go to a restaurant. They're carrying a little bag because they have to eat somewhere, either in the office or out of the office. I'd rather see people eating in the street on a bench than seeing them eat in the office, wouldn't you?
I'd rather people didn't walk down the street eating. It's a thing I first noticed when I first went to New York, and people would walk into a pizza shop, buy a slice for $1, and then walk along the street eating it. Yeah. It's revolting.
Revolting?
Yeah, I do.
Really?
Honestly, I really think it should be banned. I think eating in the street should be banned.
OK. You seem to be in a mood to ban a lot of things today.
Well, I'm not in a mood to ban things, but you get to a point in life where your tolerance factor for people who are slobs becomes increasingly difficult to hide. You know what I mean? I know life is about giving, live and let live and all that, and compromise.
Not in your world.
But I don't see why you should have to compromise to people who basically are ill-mannered.
Really?
And I regard that as ill-mannerisms.
OK. Well, as long as you're not ill-mannered, that's good. We've got lots more coming up in the second hour of the show, of course. We're going to be talking about why people are taking shorter holidays. It's Ask Porky as well. Neil has sent this tweet in. Porky, we get Mrs. Mop to put his spring-loaded £12 shower up.
Well, she could. It's easy.
What a plank.
It's easy.
This is Talk Radio.
Across the UK, online and on DAB.
The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
That boy needs therapy. Psychosomatic. That boy needs therapy. You're psychosomatic. That boy needs therapy. Lie down on the couch. What does that mean? You're a nut. You're crazy.
We are the Two Mics. This is, of course, Talk Radio. We're here with you all through the week because we've got lots to talk about and we've got lots to do. We've got Porky Vision coming up tomorrow. Did you see, by the way, that Poldark, despite what we were saying about Princess Diana's show on Channel 4, getting record numbers for them, Poldark still beat them.
By a mile.
By a mile, yeah.
It was Channel 4's biggest audience ratings for a number of years, but, they just couldn't get over the Poldark effect, could they?
They couldn't. Now, I've got a lot of tweets I want to read out to you here.
Yes.
Here's one from John. He says, I don't think Porky would moan if I was walking walking along the street eating a packet of Porky scratchings.
Well,
it's probably true.
No, I wouldn't, and I hope there'd be 2 or 3 of you eating a packet, and I hope you had a spare packet in your pocket as well. You've got to remember that, this is a great project, the Porky scratchings, and I hope it will see me into retirement, so I'd like people to go and seek them out wherever they can.
Well, I mean, it depends how much time you want to spend on it.
Yeah.
Dave says, is Porky paying these artisans VAT on the work carried out? If not, more evidence of tax dodging from the Porkmeister.
I don't think so. Jim here says, right, I need to refurb the bathroom. Just been listening to Porky. Off to B&Q now for an iron pole, a plastic curtain, and a magic light. Total cost £12.
Very
Porky's
good.
a plank. That's a bit harsh.
That's a bit harsh. Farhan says, it's my 21st birthday today. Could you please give me a shout out on Talk Radio?
Oh, yeah? Who's that?
Farhan.
Farhan?
Yeah.
How old is he?
21.
21. Farhan, 21. Happy birthday. Somebody called James earlier. I saw a note, wanted a shout out for their birthday. Can't remember how old you are, James, but very happy birthday.
Was that James' 30th birthday, I think?
30th, that's it. Yeah, OK.
James in Leon Solent.
James in Leon Solent.
Is that near you?
I walk there sometimes. It's
really?
It's a beautiful town or village even on the Solent.
Very nice.
And a rather splendid occupancy of people there. Now,
before you go any further, I often say to you, have you seen The Time? Right, we've actually now got a guest who's going to talk to us about The Time.
Just before we do, I have to say, Toby, nobody.
He's not coming on now.
No, I know. I sung the little ditty, which seemed to upset him a few years ago.
Jinxed the guest appearance.
And all of a sudden, Toby, who was going to come on and talk about things, is no longer coming on.
So what he describes as a nerve-wracking experience for him is never going to happen.
No, it's not, no.
Sorry about that, Toby. Instead, we've got Eddie Platts, who is owner of Time Factors, which is a watch and watch accessories online retailer. Eddie, a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you.
Thank you very much for joining us. Now, Mr. Parry's got a bit of a fascination with watches. I think at last count he had 27 in his watch collection. I've only got 2, I'm afraid, and mine are not anything like as lavish or as complicated as some of his.
That's right.
But, Mike, you spotted a story the other day about why watches and clocks are always set when they're in advertising at 10 to 2, right?
What I found absolutely astonishing about this is I didn't realise that when all these huge sports stars are paid millions, to promote watches, and we know how important they are to the world of sport. Formula 1 seems to be run by Rolex and all that kind of stuff. They always have the watch at either 10 past 10 or 10 to 2, if you see what I mean. And I wonder, is that a well-known sort of pattern for the fingers of a watch to make a watch look as though it's smiling at you, even though it's worth £50,000?
Well, I think the original idea was to put the hands in a position that didn't obscure the manufacturer's name and logo on the dial.
Yeah.
Oh, is that simple then?
Oh, I see. That's very interesting. So yes, go on. Sorry.
Course, at 10 to 2 or 10 past 10, it doesn't obscure the logo, and it does look a little bit like a smiley face.
Yeah.
Whereas 20 to 4 would achieve the same result in not obscuring the logo, but looks a little bit like an unhappy face.
Yes, I understand what you mean. Eddie, why is there such a fascination with watches, do you think? You've obviously been in it for most of your life and all that. I mean, we mix in the world of sport. Sometimes you see footballers, the first thing they do when they become wealthy is they buy an expensive watch, almost as if it's a status symbol. I even know one footballer who I've known for years who actually has what you might call these movable boards where he stores his watches, so that if it's a chronograph, if it's a Rolex and it doesn't need winding up, the watch is always moving even when it's not on his wrist.
I know, it's an illness, really.
Is it?
Well, you're not supposed to say that, Eddie. I mean, you're the guy that's selling this stuff, aren't you?
I'm selling them. I'm also collecting them as well, and I can tell you it's an obsession and an illness.
Is it an obsession?
Oh, it is an obsession. I mean, you see a watch, you've not got anything like it, so you must have it. It's like collecting anything.
Well, you say it's like collecting anything, except the thing is, Eddie, some of these watches are hugely expensive. I mean, if you don't mind me asking, what is the most expensive watch you've got in your collection?
It's a Panerai.
It's a what, sorry?
A Panerai.
And how much would that be worth?
I've not heard of those, Panerai.
It's probably worth about 4,500 now.
4.5 grand, eh? That's a pretty expensive
watch.
watch.
Not as much as your Rolex, is it?
Well, I don't want to go into that,
Man of the people.
Well, no. No. I mean, would you say, Eddie, that the watch of watches is the Rolex?
No.
No? What do you mean, no?
See, as usual, you got the wrong watch.
It's probably the best known watch, but there are watches out there that could cost as much as your house.
Well, you don't know how much my house is worth.
It's not worth that much.
You can certainly pay six figures for some watches.
Like over 100,000?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, my house is worth a lot more than that, actually. But I mean, no, I'm sorry, I'm only joking. No, I do understand what you're saying. In fact, I've seen watches advertised in, these glossy Sunday magazines, which cost like 230,000. And I mean, how can you justify that sort of cost for a watch? Does that represent the skill of the watchmaker who's put it together, or does it mean that it's made out of very valuable materials like gold and platinum and this sort of thing?
Well, it's a combination of craftsmanship, materials, and profit.
Is there a kind of one-upmanship going on as well? Because I mean, I've always said that there's no point in having an expensive lighter because you're probably going to lose it, an expensive watch because somebody's probably going to steal it off you, or an expensive pair of sunglasses, because in the end you're always going to leave them at the beach. Is there a kind of a competition going on between watch manufacturers to make the most expensive watch and to try and sell it to, I don't know, Ronaldo or somebody?
Well, possibly there is, but I mean, watches are status symbols.
Yeah.
And you will always find that somebody who's wearing an expensive watch shoots his cuff to make sure that you see it.
Well, I mean, this is the thing with sportsmen, isn't it? I mean, we just had the conversation when Roger Federer wins yet another tennis title. The first thing he does is he turns to an assistant and says, "Where's the watch?"
But that's because he's getting paid by them.
Well, of course he is. Of course he is. But I mean, that's what I mean. I mean, what Eddie has said is quite right. It's a status symbol. So if Roger Federer's wearing this watch, wow, that is the status symbol to have today, isn't it? With the new Wimbledon champion, and that evokes status, wealth, all these sort of things, Eddie, doesn't it?
Well, it does. I wear a cheap watch.
Yeah.
Well, there is a worry, I would have thought, Eddie, and I know we've heard stories of this from places like South Africa and Brazil, where a guy's driving along in the street and he's got his arm out the window.
Yeah.
And somebody, there was one case where a guy's arm was hacked off for the watch. If you seriously want to walk around, say, any city in Britain, London, Manchester, Birmingham, Liverpool, Glasgow, Edinburgh, late at night with a very expensive watch on, you take life in your hands, aren't you?
Yeah, you certainly are. I mean, watches worth a lot of money are easily disposable as well.
Yeah, of course they are. Yeah, when I got my Rolex, Eddie, I took
How much did you pay for it?
Well, I don't want to say, actually, if you don't mind. But, I mean, I took it to Smith Square in London, which is the head of Rolex in this country, and they sent that back to Switzerland for a full service, put a new bevel on it, all this kind of stuff. I mean, it was treated like a Rolls-Royce. Now, I just said to you, is Rolex the best? And you said, well, it's probably the best known. But what would be your choice of watch if money was no object? And how would it be treated? I mean, insurance-wise, do you have to keep it in a safe, all this kind of stuff?
Well, the problem is with an expensive watch is that a lot of people that have got their ultimate watch put it in a drawer and never wear it. They just take it out and look at it.
Really?
Well, if you've got a watch that's worth £250,000, it's highly unlikely that you're going to go out with it on your wrist.
Well, you see, that's a fascinating thing.
I mean, you have to hire a bodyguard. You'd have to be driving around in a car that was... I mean, it's like if you had a Rolls Royce. You wouldn't just leave it parked on the street anyway, would you? No.
But, I mean, do people then get imitation watches in much the same way as women who wear $1 million earrings, sometimes get paste made and they know they've got the real thing at home? Does the same thing happen with watches?
I'm sure that does happen with watches.
What's the most expensive watch you've sold, Eddie?
The most expensive watch I've sold?
Yeah.
Probably a couple of £1,000.
Right, okay.
So you're dealing with a working man type aspiration to watches, are you?
A working man?
Yes.
Who's paid £2,000 for a watch?
Yeah.
Have you gone mad?
No.
What working man can afford to pay £2,000 for a watch?
What sort of watch would that have been, Eddie?
That would have been a pre-owned Rolex.
Oh, right, okay.
Pre-owned?
I didn't... Oh, I see. A second-hand one?
Yes.
Second-hand, we call it.
So it's pre-owned?
Pre-owned.
No, it's the same as like when you buy a pre-owned Mercedes, right?
Yeah.
Fascinating stuff. All right, Eddie, well, I'm glad that you pointed out...
Do they go up in value, by the way, Eddie, these Rolexes, over the years?
You would rarely lose money on a Rolex.
Oh, that's interesting.
They go up in value.
Was your Rolex a pre-owned one?
No.
Well, why did they...
Oh, yes, it was. Yes, it was. Sorry.
No,
Yeah, it came...
This is what I'm putting up with
It came from a dealer, a travelling dealer. Yes, that's right.
Well, you mean it fell off the back of a lorry?
No, it didn't fall off the back of a lorry. And the thing is, Eddie, I think I'm right in saying, aren't I, that when I took my Rolex watch into Smith Square, if there'd have been anything dodgy about it or fake about it, they would have seized it.
And arrested you?
Yes, because I think every Rolex is registered somewhere, isn't it?
They maintain a stolen register. Lost and stolen register.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Yeah, well, I went in the building and came out a free man, so
you regard that as a champion day. Exactly, thank you very much indeed. Eddie Platt's there, owner of Time Factors up in Sheffield, in north of England. Paul says, so collecting watches is an illness. That explains a lot. Hashtag 27 watches. This is Talk Radio.
The 21st Century Dream Team of dialogue, debate and discourse. The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
It's a wonderful night, gotta take it from me. It's a wonderful night, come on and break it on down. It's a wonderful night, gotta shake it from me. It's a wonderful night, come on and break it on down. It's a wonderful night, everybody can see. It's a wonderful night, come on and break it on down. It's a wonderful night, go ahead and release.
This is Talk Radio. We are the Two Mics. Coming up a little bit later on in the show, we've got Ask Porky. If you've never had a problem solved live on the air, now's your chance to do it. All you're going to do is tweet us at the Two Mics or at Talk Radio, and we will sort that out for you.
We will.
Ben has sent a picture of his Panerai, which is a rather nice looking watch. I must admit, I've never heard of them before.
Yes.
It's called a Luminor Panerai Automatic.
How lovely.
Quite sort of old-fashioned, I suppose, as a face.
Very big on the wrist, isn't it?
And the only, interestingly...
I love big watches.
And it's power reserve, so I don't know if that means it's an electric watch, does it? With a battery?
I honestly don't know.
And it says that the only two, funnily enough, the only two numbers on the dial are a 12 and a 6. So there's no 3.
So you guess the rest of it, do you?
Well, it's not like hard, is it?
No.
What do you mean you guess the rest of it?
Oh, no, but I mean, although you say there are only 2 numbers, there are like indications of where 5 and 10 and 15
is.
Yes,
of course. But I mean, what I'm saying is the only 2 actual numbers are the 12 and the 6.
Yes, sure. Yeah, okay, yeah.
A lot of people also being rather unkind about our last guest, saying that he sounded like he needed to be wound up a bit.
Well, that's very harsh.
It's very harsh, isn't it?
No, I thought he was great, Eddie.
I thought he was very good.
I thought he was... And by the way, you know...
I mean, Laura says, well, this watch guy has to be fun at parties.
Well, you're being rude there. You see, I would describe Eddie as a dour northerner, but that's the way some northern people are. If you're a hill farmer in Yorkshire, on the Yorkshire Dales, and you've got to get up at 3:30 in the morning in minus 10 degrees to go and rescue a lamb that's got a trapped ewe or something like that, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Then it's not pleasant.
Now, I've got another advantage, thing to read out here, birthday scenario.
Yes.
E.A. O'Hare says, my third child's birthday tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'll be too busy with his party, but if you could please wish Flynn a happy 2nd birthday today, that'd be great.
Flynn?
Yeah. Flynn.
I thought he said it was his 3rd birthday.
No, he said it's his 3rd child's birthday.
Oh, 3rd child's birthday.
Yeah.
Flynn, age 2.
He will be.
Flynn, you won't be able to make out what you're hearing out of the steam radio, which your dad might have switched on in your house.
What do you mean he won't be able to make out what he's hearing?
Well, he's only 2, so he won't be able to make out words.
Speak.
Yeah, but I mean, what I'm saying is, Flynn, have a great life, my boy. At 2 years of age, you've got a long way to go.
Yes. Paul says, I hope old MG doesn't reveal the true contents of the locked room tonight.
No.
Why would I do that?
Well, there isn't one anyway, so it really doesn't matter, does it?
Yes.
Now,
Laura's also making out, right, that for some reason I seem to be more argumentative today, and she's worked out in her head, I don't know why she's done this, that I'm annoyed because it's my birthday. You know, like, why would I be annoyed because it's my birthday?
Because you're getting older.
Yeah, but I don't care about that.
No, I don't care about it
It's
either.
never bothered
but I mean,
me
I think it does bother you. I think you have a vanity factor.
Not at all.
You have always said to me over the last 2 or 3 years, increasingly, you dread the day when you will look in the mirror and think I'm no longer attractive to the
I've
opposite.
never said that.
To members of the opposite sex.
When did I say that to you?
Yes, you have said it.
You sure you didn't dream that?
No, you've said that to me.
No.
And in fact,
well, first of all, I'm not in the habit of using the words "I dread the time that." I will never say that because I don't dread anything.
Yeah, well,
and I will never dread the day that I look in the mirror and find myself unattractive to females, because if I was worried about that, I think that's already come and gone, to be honest.
You've had a conversation with me.
Now.
No, you've had a conversation with me not so long ago.
You don't remember half the things I say to you on a daily basis.
In which you've said I may have crossed over that barrier. So what barrier is that?
So you're now changing the dread conversation, so you're now misquoting me.
And you said, I may for the first time in my life have reached the moment when I'm no longer instantly attractive to members of the opposite sex.
I was never instantly attractive to members of the opposite sex.
You were.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
Absolute rubbish.
You did, indeed.
No. Well, it was comparatively speaking to you, I suppose.
Not comparatively speaking at all.
Yeah.
Now then, I tell you what I want to talk to you about.
What do you want to sound about?
Yesterday I was going on about, how all sorts of weird foods are getting into our life, like what were we talking about yesterday about food?
This is you recalling of some conversation that you're supposed to have had with me.
Right, yeah.
But you can't remember what we said yesterday.
Yeah, well, it was something about food, wasn't it?
Yeah. No.
It was.
We didn't talk about food yesterday.
We talked about some sort of food. But anyway, that brings me to the fact that, researching my journals last night on food and all that, somebody's claiming that the fajita is now the fajita.
You mean the fajita?
Fajita. The fajita is now...
Fajita's something else.
Yeah, is now Britain's most popular food.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Who's telling you that?
Well, this survey that I saw, these surveys come out all the time, saying it's even more popular now than curry.
Really?
Well, I didn't even think curry was the most popular.
Well,
I still thought fish and chips was.
No, do you not remember when they did the... In fact, it was way back at the time when Robin Cook was still alive.
Yeah.
Before he had that unfortunate accident and passed on.
Yeah. He didn't have an accident, did he?
Robin Cook?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
No, he just died of a heart attack or something, didn't he?
Well, that's an accident as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it's just, I'm afraid, it's just health, just sort of packs up on you.
Was he not walking, though, while he had it?
Robin Cook?
Yeah, I thought he was walking. I think he was on a walking holiday.
Anyway,
never mind that.
Yeah.
But it was chicken tikka masala was discovered to be the main actual food of this country.
Okay, yeah.
So when you talked about, the traditional, most popular food in Britain, it was chicken tikka masala.
Okay.
It was not fish and chips. It was not, boiled beef and carrots. It wasn't roast beef and Yorkshire pudding. It was chicken tikka masala.
It certainly can't be fajita, as you describe it, right?
Well, that is how you say it, because it's a Spanish J.
Because I don't see it anywhere.
You don't see fajitas anywhere?
No.
Why?
Well, because I don't. I walk up and down high streets.
I bet you Wetherspoons do them. I bet you any money you can get them in Wetherspoons.
No, I would doubt that very much.
Really?
I would doubt it.
I bet if I looked up Wetherspoons' menu...
I believe Wetherspoons are anti-fajita, but I just think that...
Anti-fajita?
That Wetherspoons have a great traditional menu, fish and chips at the top of it.
Do you even know what fajitas are?
Well, fajita's like a hot sort of chili pepper sauce.
Well, it's a Mexican thing, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Generally speaking, what they do is they bring them sort of steaming on a plate, a hot plate, right? But it's basically a wrap of one kind or another.
A wrap?
Usually.
Yeah.
You know what a wrap is, don't you?
Yeah, of course. It's
a wrap with a W.
Yes, I know what it is. It's and what they do is they have this hot Mexican meat in like what we'd call
you can have chicken fajitas,
like a those things you get in Chinese restaurants that you put your duck in. It's the same sort of thing, isn't it?
Well, you're ducking?
Yeah.
What do you mean you bring duck?
Well, they bring this like wicker basket. Yeah, that's right.
No, but those are more like pancakes. This is slightly bigger than that. It's the same idea, though. You're right.
So it's a bit like a piece of naan bread.
It's similar to that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you see, I told you. Well, you don't get those in my local Wetherspoons.
Are you sure?
Yeah, pretty sure. Yeah.
Because you can have chicken ones, you get vegetarian ones, you can have beef
ones,
me on. Pork possibly as well.
Pork.
Don't you like Mexican food?
Oh, I can't stand it.
What about chili con carne?
Oh God, no.
Never eaten that?
Well, yeah, I was in.
Why not?
I was in LA once, doing a story about something, and we finished it up and went and played football on the beach or something.
Mexican food in California is amazing.
Well, exactly. So then they said, "Right, come on, let's go off for lunch." So I'm thinking, let's get the King's Head.
Yeah.
And
in Santa Monica.
In Santa Monica, that's right. That's what I wanted to do, and get stuck in a bit of roast beef and all that kind of stuff. And we sort of headed that way, but then we pulled off, and I said, "Where are we going?" And they said, we're going to, this sort of... Is it Taco Bell?
Taco Bell's wonderful.
Right, okay.
I love Taco Bell.
Yeah, okay, so...
In fact, when I used to go and pick up my kids when they were living over there...
Right.
To drive them up to Connecticut to spend, holidays with them...
Yeah.
I would always try and make sure that I stopped somewhere near a Taco Bell for the night.
Yeah.
Because I'd go and get my dinner there. It's just fantastic.
Well, you see...
Taco Bell's amazing.
So we had this Taco Bell, and I said, look, fellas, I really don't want to sort of, be a wet blanket. I said, but I can't stand Mexican food. Do they serve anything else in here? And they sort of conjured up some sort of hamburger or something for me, but it's very low quality. And these guys spent hours, about 3 hours, stuffing a face full of all this Mexican food.
Well, because they do those really small tacos, they do small burritos.
Right,
Well, I'm looking at the Wetherspoons menu. They do burritos, and they've got a grilled version of some kind of a fajita. Right. So that'll be why these things are becoming so special, so popular.
Yeah, well,
because people like Wetherspoons are now doing them.
Yeah, you say so.
Well, it's on their menu. It's not I'm saying so.
Yes. Well, yes, but I just wonder how many of those they sell compared to fish and chips. That's all I'm saying.
If your survey is saying that this is now the most popular food in Britain, it's probably because places like Wetherspoons are selling it.
Yeah, I know, but I didn't pay much attention to the survey because I got the impression it was a kind of PR thing. You know what I mean?
Well, you don't pay much attention to anything.
Well, I do.
That's part of the problem.
Now, one thing I do pay attention to, talking about food, is that I can't quite believe this because I'm a big fan of Tesco's because I think it's a great. it's a great British company, and it was run one time by my friend, Sir Terence Leahy.
When was the last time you spoke to your friend, Sir Terence?
Well, I haven't had an opportunity to talk to him recently. He's been busy running another supermarket chain.
Blocked your number?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Isn't he running? What's he running? That
B&M.
Is it B&M?
Yeah.
Isn't he running some northern thing? Isn't he?
Well, that is what it is.
B&M.
Yeah, but I think it's being taken over by somebody else.
What's B&M stand for?
Well, I don't know, but I mean, it's the name of the...
Well, what is it then?
Well, how should I know?
Well, you're from the north.
What does Tesco stand for?
Tesco actually does stand for something, because it was the woman's name Cohen was one end of it, and Terence Leahy was the other bit, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't. It was Sir Jack Cohen was the man who founded it, and CO at the end, and then TES were the names of his 3 children.
Okay, so you know what Tesco stands for, but you don't know what the northern thing stands for.
I don't. But anyway, the point of my story is right, and I wish you wouldn't waste time so I can get to the kernel of the story. Tesco is scrapping 16 types of ordinary tea in favour of herbal alternatives.
Right.
Nobody wants herbal tea.
Yeah, they do.
No.
Yeah, they do.
No.
I'll tell you why.
My doctors advised me, for the sake of my heart, only 1/3 of which works, to drink green tea.
Yeah, well, you should.
Why do you want to drink green tea?
Because he's trying to stop you drinking so much
I'd
alcohol.
rather eat pea soup or drink it.
Well, maybe you should drink pea soup.
Across the UK, online and on DAB.
The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
I'm going slightly mad. I'm going slightly mad. It finally happened.
This is Talk Radio. We are the Two Mics. I'm delighted to say that Marta has made Porky a green tea.
No.
Yes, she has.
Really?
Look, she's gone through all that trouble listening to you because your doctor's recommending it. So surely this is a good time to try one out.
Yeah.
Green tea with no milk and no sugar.
Gosh.
Looks like mud.
Well, hang on. I'm going to taste it now.
Yeah, all right,
okay?
give it a taste. Careful, it might be very hot, yes.
Well, wait a minute. First of all, let me see
Did you
what
want to
sort
put some
of...
cold water in it?
No, what
you
sort
sure?
of odour it gives off.
What sort of odour does it give off?
Doesn't give off any odour.
My mother drinks green tea, and
This
she's
looks
93
like,
years old, so, I mean, you should take a leaf out of her book, if you pardon the pun.
It looks like a muddy puddle.
Yes, well, it does look like a muddy puddle, but nevertheless, give it a try. And, it's very cleansing, it's detoxifying for you.
Right, hang on.
It gets rid of all the horrible things inside your body. Mind you might have to drink quite a lot of it for that, in your case.
That's very nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Hang on.
So what's the difference? I mean, ordinary tea has got more caffeine in it, probably, right?
Do you know what it tastes of?
What does it taste like?
Absolutely nothing. Right? Tasteless. Tasteless.
Well, you can get different flavoured teas. That's the whole point. If you have green tea flavoured with mint, maybe, you get green tea flavoured with strawberries.
I want to know how come suddenly inside TalkSport Towers we've suddenly got like a batch of green tea.
No, because people drink it now.
Yeah?
This
Who
is the
drinks
point.
it?
I mean, you were just telling me...
Am I surrounded by weirdos?
Yes. Yeah, you are. The point is, right, you work in the media, you've been surrounded by weirdos all your life. The point is, right, the reason why, as you were pointing out, one of the supermarkets is now putting more prominence for these kinds of products, right, is because that's what people want to drink. My daughter drinks some kind of weird tea-type concoction.
Yeah, but that's because everybody thinks it's trendy to do all this stuff.
No, but she drinks it at night before she goes to bed because it helps her sleep, she says.
Yeah.
And it's not got caffeine in it, so it doesn't mean you're lying there kind of staring at the ceiling, going, I can't sleep.
Yeah, well, I don't do that.
Don't you?
Listen, what do you think about this story, about this model who was going to be transported into the dark web and spend the rest of her life as a sex slave
I did say yesterday,
sex worker?
I did say yesterday that I thought there was something a bit odd about the way that she was sort of gallivanting around outside her house with her little dog.
Yes.
Not wearing very many clothes and looking incredibly healthy. Yeah. And very sort of radiant.
And not too traumatised about the fact that she was bundled up in a bag, locked in the boot of a car, taken off to some foreign climes in Belgium or somewhere, and was told, we're selling you into sex slavery for the rest of your life. Yeah. Didn't seem to have upset her sort of equilibrium too much.
Well, there now seems to be some kind of question being asked by the Italian police to see whether or not she was involved in somehow kidnapping herself.
That's right.
Right, because they apparently spotted her on a shopping trip to Turin, where her alleged captor bought her some shoes.
They went off shopping for shoes together.
And she didn't apparently try to escape. Now, that may be unfair, because just because somebody's taken you somewhere to buy shoes does not necessarily mean that, you might be frightened for your life, so you might not want to try and run away in case the guy manages to capture you and do some terrible things to you. Yeah. But her own lawyer is now facing sort of claims that she may have been involved in this, and he's having to deny that she was part of the plot. Which seems extraordinary, doesn't it?
It seems absolutely extraordinary. But questions are being asked because you've got to remember that as we are trained observers and seekers of truth and justice...
Yes, we have an instinct for these things.
Yeah, we have an instinct for them. We're the first to spot that actually there's something a bit dodgy about this whole thing.
And she's also now said, has she not, that during her kidnap and sort of ordeal, the guy she was with was sleeping next to her in bed.
Yeah.
So... presumably, it was not as it's not as most of us would imagine a kidnap to be.
I totally agree.
She wasn't locked in a cellar.
I totally agree.
And all that kind of thing.
I totally agree. Now, I want to tell you, we were talking about Mr. Abramovich earlier and some of the investments he's made in paintings. He's got a load of bacon paintings and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
£43 million.
He's a fan of bacon, is he?
Yeah,
I'm not a fan of bacon. Are you?
No.
I don't like his paintings.
No,
I think they're all a bit sort of crude.
But there's one painting called the Bacon Triptych.
Oh yeah,
which Mr. Abramovich bought apparently for £43 million. Yeah.
Isn't that ridiculous?
Yeah, well, is it? I don't know. I mean, he thinks it's worth it. It's probably a very good investment.
It's probably gone up in value.
Yeah, exactly.
But what I think is ridiculous is the idea that anybody that lives on the same planet as I do could go and buy something which sits on a wall and pay $43 million for it.
Well, people pay more than that for paintings, believe it or not.
I know.
In fact, Riviera, which is moving on, the great...
Are you still watching that?
Oh, yeah, it's brilliant.
Why aren't you watching it all at once?
Well, because I don't have time.
What do you mean you don't have time?
But what happens is, in the middle of one episode, Interpol walks in and says, take all the paintings. And they're claiming that the paintings are actually just a hugely elaborate and...
money laundering scheme.
Yes, that's right, and that's all they're doing. Is that, and some of the paintings are fakes, and some of the real paintings are in a safe in the Bahamas and all that. It's fascinating, all that. But anyway, talking about investments, I was going to put this to you. Now, we have come to an agreement that I'm not going to bang on about John Lennon for the rest of my life, OK?
We have come to that sort of agreement, well, not all the time. It's fair enough to mention it once in a while.
Yeah, well, when it's newsworthy, right? But I mean, I do have a fascination for John Lennon. I think he was the greatest musician ever born. And, of course, coming from the part of the world I do in the Northwest, we sort of grew up with the Beatles, OK? Now, this is something now very, very serious, which I might get into.
Right.
There is a John Lennon letter, which is up for auction.
Oh, yeah.
And what happened was, John Lennon wrote an open letter to a magazine to answer some of his wife's accusations that...
This is his first wife, Cynthia.
This is his first wife, Cynthia.
Yeah.
Now, Cynthia Lennon became Cynthia Twist in a third marriage.
Right.
And she wrote a book called A Twist of Lennon.
Yes.
So her surname Twist.
It's a bit of a
Lennon,
play on words.
And she wrote her version of the marriage and all that kind of stuff. Now, in response, John Lennon wrote an open letter to a magazine. I'm not sure which one it was, but it was something like Vanity Fair or something like this.
Okay.
And I think this happened in about 1976 or something like that.
Right.
When he was still very, very famous. 4 years before he was sadly assassinated.
Yes.
Yeah, outside the Dakota, which you and I are going to go and see in a couple of weeks' time, of course, just to pay homage to the boy. But point of my story is this letter has now come up for auction, and my heart fluttered when I saw this because it said it will probably go for about £20,000. Now, if it goes for that amount, there's a spokesman here for RR Auctions. As Lennon's official side of the story, a public he said, she said, self-defence, these letters represent the unique final chapter in the life of the former Beatle. And if that letter is available for £20,000...
Yes.
I will definitely be in the bidding.
Will you?
I would like to acquire that letter.
This is another episode of Mike Porky Parry, Man of the People. You're going to spend 20 grand on a piece of paper.
Well,
what are you going to do with it?
Well, what do you mean?
What are you going to do if you were to win the auction?
Yeah.
What will you do with it?
I would keep it in a safe.
Keep it in a safe?
I would, yeah.
Why?
Well, because it's such a fantastically historical
document. You just
document.
carry it around with you and show it to people and go, look at this, I paid 20 grand for this.
No, I'd carry a copy of it around and show it to people. Yeah, I would.
Of course you would.
Yeah, but
because for you, there's no point in spending money unless they can see it. I mean, I forgot to point out to the watch guy that when you wear your Rolex, right, and we appear on Sky TV, which we do from time to time, it's amazing how often your sleeve somehow rolls back and you lift your arm up to the camera and everybody can see that you're wearing a Rolex.
Oh, that's outrageous. I don't. Traditionally, you know that I never wear cufflinks because I hate to have a shirt.
I don't know you never wear cufflinks.
Yeah, a shirt sleeve dropping onto my wrist.
Have you got cufflinks?
I've got loads of cufflinks.
But you never wear them?
No, I never wear them. I've got loads of gold cufflinks, but I never wear them. But I always...
Why don't you give them to me then? I'd wear them.
Yeah, I will give them to you if you want them,
okay.
But I always turn the sleeves back
We've
so they're
got to stop
halfway
now.
up my
Have
arm.
you seen the time?
No, but listen.
No, we haven't got any time.
I want to read a little bit of this letter.
Well, read it in a minute.
Okay.
All right, this is talkRADIO.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk to Simon next.
All right.
Calder. Good man.
The 21st century dream team of dialogue, debate and discourse. The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
David Walliams can be found here on Talk Radio, and you can hear him on Story Hour this Sunday from 3 p.m. The Britain's Got Talent judge, now a popular children's author, will be reading his books over the course of the next few weeks in association with HarperCollins Children's Books. Don't miss David Walliams' Story Hour this Sunday from 3 p.m. only on Talk Radio.
Excellent.
That's good, isn't it?
Yeah, now what have you got on that screen there? This is quite fascinating. Yeah, why am I watching some old wreck of a boat bobbing around in some distant port?
Do you know what Periscope is, right? It's something that Twitter do, and we've done it before ourselves. We used to sometimes film bits of our show on Periscope.
That's right.
People like to do live broadcast, basically.
I think a former broadcaster here, who fortunately is no longer with us, used to use them in press boxes.
Je suis un journaliste.
Yeah, je suis journaliste. Non fare.
Yeah,
that's right.
Je suis un journalist. Yes, yeah, we won't mention his name, of course, because we don't want to give him any publicity. No. But, an old friend of ours, Paul Breen Turner, as you know, is on a solo sort of round-the-world yachting scenario.
No, I think he's on a solo round the Gibraltar Rock mission, actually.
Well, this is supposed to be from La Coruña. Or Deportivo, I should say.
Yeah.
You know the team called Deportivo La Coruña,
yes,
which I think I'm right in saying is up in the Basque Country.
I think it probably
is. In the north of Spain.
So he's got that far north, has he?
Oh, I'm getting wagged. My finger's being wagged at Galicia. That's the northwest, isn't it? Oh, it's not the Basque Country.
Right,
well, it's near the Basque Country. I mean,
it's on the way
a stone's throw from Bilbao, for heaven's sake.
Okay, yeah.
It's up in that neck of the
See
woods.
how you get caught out when we've got an expert in the studio.
I'm not caught out. Listen, I would argue that it's in the Basque Country. The Basques are spreading even as we speak. You never know where they're going to turn up next.
So anyway,
Paul
what's the point of this?
Well, we're going to talk to Simon Calder about him in a minute.
Yeah.
Because he is... Well, I don't know what the point of it is, but he's gone on Periscope to show his particularly well-appointed vessel.
No, it looks like an old wreck.
Well, it does look a bit like an old wreck.
Looks like a Captain Calamity-type vessel. Don't take it out into more than 50 feet of water in case it sinks.
Maybe we'll get him on the show.
Yeah, maybe.
Find out how it's all going. But let's talk to Simon Calder. He is, of course, the travel editor of The Independent, a man that we speak to from time to time, because we've seen a story, Simon. A very good afternoon to you, by the way. We've seen a story.
Hello. I've got to pick up on La Coruña, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Go on.
Okay, it's you need a very, very good throw to get there from Bilbao.
Yeah.
As I think your excellent producer was pointing out.
Well, she is Spanish, you know.
I know, top left-hand corner.
Yeah.
Galicia. You can fly there direct from Heathrow. It's also very close to Santiago de Compostela.
Oh, yeah, all right. Why is it suddenly turned into Mike Graham bashing day? I mean, it's my birthday tomorrow, Simon. Give me a break, for heaven's sake. Listen, I know all about Galicia. Listen, I drink Albarino wine on a regular basis, right? Which is from there, is it not?
It almost certainly is. I'm still on the Hirondelle, so I'm not that at all.
Yeah, he has to relate everything to drink, Simon.
Do you know, I went to a beautiful restaurant in Cap Ferrat once called Les Hirondelles.
All right.
You did not?
I did.
In Cap Ferrat?
In Cap Ferrat, there was a restaurant there called Les Hirondelles.
He's still paying the bill.
They don't serve Hirondelle.
No, they certainly don't. No, it was right opposite the Hotel du Cap, actually.
Fantastic.
I'm sure it was. Now, Simon, getting more to the point, please. It's great to have you on because all things expert, when it comes to travel, we like to refer to you. The new report you've seen out this morning says that people now giving up the old 15 days abroad, which started as package holidays 30 years ago, 40 years ago, people now going for the short mini breaks, the 4 days in Prague or the weekend in Paris or maybe even further afar, but only for a week. Why is this?
Okay, well, it's basically because we can. If you go back 20 years, so 1996, EasyJet had just started up. They were this funny little airline. You could go anywhere you wanted as long as it was Luton. And the no-frills revolution was just getting underway. Now, anywhere you want to go to from your local airport, the chances are you've got 4 times as much choice and the fares are about half as much as they were.
Yeah.
So we used to go on fortnight holidays because it made perfect sense. It cost an arm and a leg to get there.
Yeah.
So, of course, you were going to stay a long time when you got there. Now we can go for much more intense, shorter breaks. And as a result of that, we do. Who wouldn't want to... We're travelling more places more often, but for a shorter, more intense thrill.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, when I was a kid, I remember the thrill of getting the Thompson's holiday brochure, and everything was 15 days, you know what I mean? And so...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And they had all the prices printed, and
yeah,
so
they did.
That was the price you paid, as opposed to... oh, look, it's here it is 1 minute and now it's something else the next.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah.
Now, that's the upside of it, freedom of movement, really, in your holiday. But the downside of it is this proliferation of stag and hen parties across Europe as a result of this, which are giving the British traveller a bad name.
Oh, well, look, come on, I think we're perfectly capable of having a bad name before.
Yeah, probably.
We want to colonise parts of, the costas and make them just like home, only with better weather and cheaper booze. So we've been doing that for years. Look, I don't have a problem with people going to Prague and Budapest and Vilnius and all these other places further east, which you neither spell nor pronounce. Well, I certainly can't.
Yes.
And I can't see much resistance from the bartenders and the restaurateurs and the hotels who are welcoming them. So,
that's right.
But does this mean, Simon, that the week-long trip, if it is to become the more of the norm, is likely to get cheaper or more expensive? Because I've noticed over the course of just even the last 2 or 3 years, I mean, every single year, the cost of villas are going up, cost of
it's demand, I suppose,
apartments is going up, the cost of hotel rooms are going up.
Yeah, and I'm going to guess that is because you are looking in Spain, Portugal, that sort of area. Is that fair?
Well, I would say, Spain. I've done Turkey, Spain, Greece. The whole gamut, really.
Yeah, okay.
Not Galicia, though.
No, Galicia. I was just in Galicia.
Too far from Bilbao.
Fantastic. No, the accommodation is getting trickier, particularly in Spain, in the Balearics this summer, and also in Portugal. But that's because people are going there rather than heading off down to Turkey and Egypt and so on. That will change. There's incredible bargains around. Certainly in terms of airfares, we have absolutely never had it so good.
Yeah.
This is the generation where you can go anywhere you want to, pretty much. If you can be flexible on timing, that's going to help you keep the cost down. And of course, if you haven't got any pesky kids like I have, you can go when it's not the school holiday and save even more.
Yeah.
So it's a great time to be a traveller. Terrible time if you're running booze cruises. But I tell you what, boys, they're going to come back very soon. As soon as we leave the EU, duty-free will be back and we'll be sailing across to Calais once again, just to stock up with lots of cheap wine.
Yeah, but
and
watch the ferry prices going through the roof then
well,
as well.
Yeah,
right?
I'm reserving my boat already. Now, Simon, does this mean it's the end of the family holiday to all intents and purposes? If people are nipping off, weekends here, weekends there, it's a bit like Sunday lunch. Are we ever going to all get together again on a holiday?
Oh, yeah, it's fine. Look, I mean, because we can have more holidays. Some of them you're going to have with your family. Some of them you're not. It's just a great time. I'm lucky enough, obviously, due to not having a proper job, to be able to spend my entire life on holiday. And so I go off on my own. My wife comes with me sometimes, and we abandon the kids, and then we drag them to various places against their will.
Yeah.
But it's good. No, the family holiday is alive and well. And increasingly, particularly with students who, as you know, at the best time, even at the best time, are quite annoying.
Yeah, Porky hates anyone with a rucksack.
Well, that'll be me then. Thank you.
No, you accepted. But the other issue with the family holiday is, and it's more and more difficult to go on a family holiday for all sorts of reasons. The other interests the family have, and the kids on laptops all the time, but. Yeah. When we used to go, and I remember the first one we ever went on was, believe it or not, a Britannia Airways propeller flight to Mallorca. Can you imagine that? Right.
That's brilliant. So it took all day and very uncomfortable. You probably had to stop somewhere to refuel along the way.
All that kind of stuff. Yeah. But at least when you got to the desk where you were checking in for your flight, you could say, because there was my mum and dad and there were 3 children, we could all sit together. But you're not even guaranteed that these days,
are you? They used to leave you out on your own, though.
No. I was.
The airlines have decided that's a very good way of making money. Basically, as they've been squeezed by the incredible surge in supply of airline seats.
Yeah.
So the prices have come down. So they've just been thinking, okay, well, how can we extract bit more money from Mike, I know we will we'll charge him to sit next to his family. In fact, I never ever pay. And if you're travelling with under 12 kids, they will. That's at 12 years of age as opposed to 12 kids. You don't want to do that under any circumstances.
No.
Then they will sit you together. They've got to legally.
Right.
But otherwise, you can probably survive a 2-hour flight without sitting next to your nearest and dearest. I certainly can, and they are frankly delighted by that.
That's right. Well, after the age of 12, kids don't want to sit near their parents anyway.
No, they want to pretend they don't have any.
That's right.
That's the great thing.
That's right.
Now, let me just ask you, Simon, about this ridiculous situation now in Europe, where for the beginning of the holiday season, we were told there were going to be terrible queues everywhere. You couldn't fly out of Barcelona airport. You couldn't fly out of Malaga. You couldn't fly out of Palma in Mallorca.
And then overnight it disappeared.
Without waiting like 4 hours to get there. Now they've all gone.
And that's partly it's a result of several things. First of all, this story, and I've not been able to substantiate it. Certainly, Barcelona Airport last Friday morning, there were big problems because the security staff were on strike, as well as long passport checks. And one guy I talked to said, frankly, if I hadn't allowed 3 hours, I wouldn't have made it.
Right.
After that, everyone's been in the very annoying position of turning up 4 hours early, getting through in 10 minutes, and you're just stuck there drinking terrible coffee, unless actually you're in La Coruña, where they got one of the finest airport restaurants I know of.
Is that right?
Great. Pulpo, octopus. It's a real speciality there.
You want to be drinking coffee when you wait for an airplane.
Porky only drinks green tea now.
No, I don't drink green tea. I don't mind drinking a bit of, green creme de menthe or something, but not green tea.
I'll have a pint of whatever he's having.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. It's got a bit better. It's still going to be pretty awful, I think, at the end of the month when you've got the great return. Fares are going through the roof. The airports are going to be extremely crowded at either end. So, as always, just hope for the best, but be prepared for delays and disruptions.
Well, we're flying to New York in September, Simon. If you happen to be in America, right, in September, around September the 16th, we'd like to invite you to our live show, which we're doing at a place called the City Winery in Varick Street in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I will do my best to be there. It's going to be almost the 40th anniversary of, would you believe, the great Freddie Laker and his trade.
That's fantastic.
Which sort of takes us back almost to where we began, because it was people like him saying, hang on, it doesn't need to cost 3 months hard labour to get to New York.
Yeah.
So, raise a glass to him as well. I certainly will.
We certainly would. And Simon, can I say thank you very much for your assistance in helping us to get in touch with British Airways, who've been ever so good. And we will be with them when we get over there. One last thing, Simon. This is a really strange one. I'm told that if you really want to look after security on your holidays now, you have to pack a door wedge with you. And that is because...
I saw that as well.
Door wedge?
Yeah, door wedge.
Right.
So that in your hotel bedroom, you shove it under the door when you go to bed at night.
Right.
And then if some guy wants to burst in and rob you in the middle of the night, he can't. Did you know about this?
What sort of hotel does that?
I've heard about this, and some people are insisting upon it. Frankly, I'm happy to trust in the probabilities. The risks of travel, and we're just talking about this, 2/3 more people going abroad than they were 20 years ago. The number of people who very sadly come to grief has not increased at all. So you are much safer going abroad now than you have ever been.
Is that right?
So therefore, celebrate that.
I think you just got to stay away from staying in those places you rent by the hour.
Yeah, that's right.
Be careful about.
Definitely. Just in case somebody comes in and starts demanding money.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Thank you very much indeed,
Simon. Thank you very much.
We'll talk to you soon as ever. Coming up in the next hour, we're going to be telling you about why our broadband is so awful in this country, and actually we are behind places like Slovakia, Slovenia, and Bulgaria. Right, where you get faster broadband, and you get in this country. This is Talk Radio.
Across the UK, online and on DAB.
The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
Never stop and they never die. They just keep on popping how they multiply. Crazy
Talk Radio, we are the two mics. Ask Porky's coming up a little bit later on. We've got loads of really, really great questions, actually. But if, in fact, you have to still get one of your problems solved live on air, and it's a particularly good one, we may be able to squeeze it in under the wire. You're just going to tweet us at the two mics, or indeed at talkRADIO as well. A couple of people, by the way, have tweeted in, which I'm going to tell you about you showing off your watch on Sky TV. There's a picture of you and me sitting there, and look, the arrow's pointing very firmly at your rolled-up sleeve, which reveals...
My sleeve is not rolled up.
Your second-hand
Rolex.
No,
that's very unfair to say my sleeve's rolled up. It's not. It's just a normal jacket, and I hate having cuffs with heavy cufflinks sitting on the top of my hand.
I noticed you're not wearing your Rolex today.
No, of course I'm not wearing my Rolex today.
Why not?
Because, you know...
Because you're not on television.
No. I don't wear it every day, and I usually wear it with my best black suit.
Do you?
Which I was wearing on that occasion.
I see.
Now, you can't talk because, you know, talk about interesting lives.
Hang on, we've got a very important guest waiting to speak to us. Mr. Frederick Forsyth.
Oh, you bet.
Who is, of
if
course,
you'd told me that, I wouldn't have bothered talking to you.
So just shut up for a minute.
Yeah, I certainly will.
Author of Day of the Jackal and many others, and of course, a very, very well received columnist now for Her Majesty's Daily Express. Frederick, a very good afternoon to you.
I was loving that conversation because I've got a Rolex.
Do you like to show it off as well?
No, I'm not going to show it off.
No,
don't show it off.
Porky mugged.
Well, that's the thing, but he likes to show his off, you see, when we're on TV, which is a very, very unfortunate situation. Now, we could talk to you about a great many things, but what we'd like to talk to you about...
is Drax Power Station, please.
Well, you'd like to talk to me about that,
yes.
because Porky and you, I think, have the same view that, this idea that we're all going to go electric and we're going to have electric cars, and, we're not going to have coal-fired power stations anymore, is never going to happen in Porky's view. Where do you stand on it?
Well, I mean, again, it's another of these great ideas. It's political. It's not been thought through. Nobody's done costing. Nobody's done time. Nobody's thought about cost overruns or time overruns. It's just a great idea. Let's have clean air. Wow. Yes, of course, let's have clean air. The only problem about it is, so far, is that if you're going to electrify all our cars, we're going to use staggering quantities of electricity, which has all got to be generated. And in the generating thereof it, what do we create? Eco-filth.
Yes.
That's a fact.
Yeah, no, it's not only as a fact, but I mean, it's actually true. And when I read your column, I think last Friday, Frederick, if you don't mind me calling you Frederick, because you are a very esteemed author, and I have tremendous respect for you.
Creeping.
Hang on. But the idea that we chop down half of Canada's forests, then put them onto large boats, ship them across the Atlantic, then turn them into pellets, and then put them into a power station in Yorkshire is the maddest form of saving the planet I've ever heard.
But this is how these crazy plans get done. It's a simple fact that very, very few ministers actually have a clue about the technology of the department they govern.
Well, this I would absolutely agree with you on.
Upon their mandarins.
Yeah.
The mandarins aren't interested in small, cheap, fast. They're interested in massive, huge budgets, years of guaranteed employment. So they put to ministers grandiose schemes rather than efficient ones.
Right, yeah.
And that's why we get Hinkley Point, which is going to come on stream sometime when we're both, I think, in a care home, if at all.
And presumably HS2.
South Korea is producing small, cheap, fast and clean nuclear power generators, which it's building in the third world. But no, we don't want that. We want a massive, extraordinarily expensive one, which will be built by French technicians, because we haven't got any of ours left. They've all been chased out of the country. And Chinese money, which, of course, they're not donating. We're going to have to borrow it and then pay it back with astronomical interest rates and so on. So Hinkley Point will generate probably the world's most expensive electricity when, I'm long gone.
Yeah.
And if you're a young man, I can't see your face.
Well, I'm a young man.
No, he's not a young man. No, he hasn't got long.
And
the point is...
That's the way it goes. And it's the same with Drax, the idea that, let's have wood pellets, instead of nasty black old king coal. So,
But the problem is, Frederick, is it not? You're absolutely right to say that the incompetence of government ministers is quite staggering. I mean, I'm a big fan of Yes Minister and Yes Prime Minister, and I've been watching it again recently. And it's just it's exactly the way that I think the place is run, because all of these politicians want to leave a legacy behind of some kind, don't they? They want to. I mean, David Cameron, I was just talking before the news there, that Slovakia, Slovenia and Bulgaria have all got better broadband speeds than we have. David Cameron swore that he was going to put fast broadband in everybody's house in the country. I've got a place in Sussex. You still can't get 3G, unless you go up the top of a hill 60 miles from London. It's unbelievable.
Well, it goes right across the spectrum, because we've got HS2, this mega fast train that's going to run. Actually, it isn't going to run from London to Birmingham and then on to Manchester and then Leeds. It's been tried in Holland, and it's a disaster. It was thought of in Madrid, and they cancelled it. Reason? As they've now revealed with HS2, it's not about speed. You gain 20 minutes. That businessmen are all sitting on their computers in their first-class carriages doing their business anyway. They don't need to be there 20 minutes earlier. It's now revealed that it's about capacity. Well, there are countries in Europe that have got two-decker coaches. Why can't we have them? It's a fraction of the cost.
Yeah.
It is about the cost. Bureaucrats love massive projects.
Yeah,
big budgets, big power.
But can't at some stage, Frederick, can't a politician step forward and say common sense dictates that if you build huge windmills all over the country, scarring the landscape, which don't actually work when either there's no wind or there's too much wind, then it's not really a very efficient way of producing power when we've still got vast resources of coal, which is the cheapest way of giving us electricity, particularly if every car's got to run on electricity. Are there no common sense politicians left to overrule these mandarins?
Well, no, there aren't, because they're all basically moral cowards. It takes a very, very strong personality, like, for example, the late Margaret Thatcher, whom some people loathed, but some people admired. But at least even those who loathed her could admit she did indeed, speak forthrightly about what was needed and went for it. Now we don't have that. We have people who concede to the senior mandarins in their bureaucracies because the mandarins effectively control government, because effectively they out-brain their minister.
And they're full-time, aren't they? The civil service is always there, and politicians come and go. Even cabinet ministers have got a life expectancy of about 2.5 years, so they always know, the civil servants, a bit like,
If you work for Donald Trump, then you're about 8 minutes.
Yeah, well, about 8 minutes, but these civil servants...
That may be the future.
They see a minister come in, don't they, and they say, well, I'll give him 2 years, and then we'll see him carried out on a stretcher with the screaming abdabs, and then the next guy comes in, or the next woman comes in.
It's much more about what does the minister know about the subject matter of this ministry. Answer, nothing.
Right.
Yeah. So
but is it not also...
nothing about defence, and you appoint him to defence.
Yeah.
As a result, we get all the wrong fighters, all the wrong carriers, and all the wrong launch systems for the fighters on the carriers. So they abolish the Harrier, which is, of course, a cracking thing. They abolish the Neptune, and they buy in for something which we don't want and doesn't work properly, but is twice the price. So it goes right through from energy, when we had a man called Ed Davey, a Lib Dem who was rigid with political correctness, who agreed to everything that sounded politically correct, like having wood pellets in Drax power station, on through to defence ministers who don't know the first blasting, and even which wing goes on which side of the aircraft. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely
They're
true.
there to perform in Parliament, but unfortunately, as soon as they sit down with the mandarins, the mandarins just absolutely snow them with technology, which they don't understand. And so we get these white elephants like Hinkley Point, like HS2, and on and on and on, and like Drax Power Station burning wood pellets, which come all the way from Central America, or Central USA.
It's enough to...
creating, as they come, enormous amounts of CO2, which is what we're supposed to be trying to reduce.
Well, that is the problem, isn't it? But you'd have to say as well, Frederick, and you have conceded, I suppose, that it will be after you're long gone, and maybe after I'm long gone as well, but there will be ways of generating electricity, I think, that a lot of the car manufacturers, for example, are now looking at. In Toyota in Japan, they're looking at producing a battery which lasts a lot longer, which is less polluting to produce, and which also takes less time to charge. So I'm presuming about 20 or 30 years there will be technological kind of steps made to make electric cars more, I suppose, user-friendly, if you like.
That will happen, of course. Yes, and we will produce probably find other ways of producing sustainable source to electricity. What about the vast power of the tides, of which we have no loss, no lack, and which have no time. We don't harness tide power. They do in some countries, and it's working too. No, we prefer.
I think they're trying to do it in Scotland, aren't they?
Some of the places with black slabs called what do you call it?
Solar panels.
Like solar panels.
Which don't work.
Scar the landscape with thousands of these windmills, which nobody points out. The maintenance of windmills out at sea is actually nearly doubles the cost of the electricity. No one is pointing out just how expensive the electricity is that we're producing with these so-called ecologically benign methods.
We're
certainly by the time Hinkley Point comes on, we will be buying the most expensive electricity in the world.
I know. Honestly, what you've just said to me is enough to drive me to drink. And just on that, Frederick,
Doesn't take much, to be fair.
Can I just tell you a little story from quite a few years ago, a few decades ago? A few days after Lord Mountbatten was murdered in Ireland, I drove out of Dublin and came to your home. You lived there then. I think it was probably a tax thing or something.
That's a bit harsh.
And I drove up your drive and I knocked on your door and I said, "Hello, Mr. Forsyth, Mike Parry from the Daily Express. I thought, as an award-winning author and the man who created, The Day of the Jackal, you might like to give me some view on Mountbatten." And you said, "Well, thank you, Mike, for coming to see me. Actually, because I'm British and because I'm pretty well known and I earn a decent living as an author, I don't want to say anything, but why don't you come and have a glass with me, seeing as you've come all the way out here?" So you're very kind to me. Thank you very much indeed. I was a young reporter in those days.
I bet it took him about 3 days to get rid of you, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it did. Yeah.
I remember that, yeah. It was two things. Firstly, it was actually because I married an Irish girl.
Oh, right.
Not tax, but the other thing, when I got there and realised that the IRA was starting to bomb Brits in the south.
Yes.
South of the Northern Ireland border. They got a Dutchman first, he'd Herrimer, kidnapped him, and my wife then got a panic attack and thought there was an armed IRA man behind every bush in the garden. That was why. Right. I was advised, even by Charlie Haughey, Prime Minister at the time, to keep a low profile.
Right,
indeed.
Yeah.
Well, Frederick, thank you very much
for
joining
indeed.
us. We've got so many more things we could ask you, but we're out of time. We'll have to get you back on another time if it's all possible.
We'd love to speak to you again.
That'd be great. Frederick Forsyth, renowned author of Day of the Jackal, The Fourth Protocol, fantastic books he's written.
Yeah.
What a terrible thing to say to the guy that he went to the Southern Ireland to escape his tax.
No, I didn't say that. I said it may have been for tax reasons. Well, that's all I said.
It's terrible. Yeah. This is Talk Radio.
The 21st Century Dream Team of dialogue, debate and discourse. The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
Right, OK, stay tuned to Talk Radio because at 4 p.m, John Nicholson takes over with a very packed drive time show. Now, former newspaper editor Paul Connew, who, Mike, is a former colleague of
we know him very
yours
well.
and mine,
Yeah,
from way back, worked with us in America and back in Fleet Street. He will be live in the studio analysing the stories that are trending this afternoon. Now, security expert Will Geddes will pop in to tell us how to protect ourselves from cyber attacks. All this and much, much more from 4 till 7 here on Talk Radio.
I thought I was going to read a bit of that.
Sorry?
I thought I was going to read a bit of that.
I just
I was to do the whole thing.
I was in full flow.
I see. And now I've got a great text here from John, one of our tech ops over in the other place that we sometimes work.
Yeah.
Talk Sport.
Oh, yes.
He's listening to the show in France, in his garden, right?
Yes.
Talking about Wi-Fi. But he says you can't get Wi-Fi in the next room at his parents' house in Wiltshire. Talking about why Wi-Fi in this country is in such a dire state of affairs.
My God.
You know?
Yeah.
We are apparently 31st in the world in terms of how fast our broadband is.
Shocking,
Isn't
isn't
that
it?
shocking?
Absolutely shocking.
I mean, how many times do we sit in these very studios and try and make sure that the broadband's working, try and make sure that the 3G's working, and it just doesn't work?
Well, absolutely. That music we play, by the way, now that's the very, very famous Fleetwood Mac song, and halfway through the song, that sort of riff comes in, and that was picked up very cleverly by a BBC producer.
The Chain is the name of it, right?
Is that The Chain? Yeah. Who decided to take it out of the song. Which song's it in?
It's The Chain.
Is it called The Chain?
Yes.
I thought that bit of it was called The Chain.
No, the song's called The Chain.
The song's called The Chain.
Well, how many songs do you know they break it up and give a different name to the second part of it?
Well, no, I thought it might have acquired a name of its own, seeing as it's the most one of the most famous...
Yeah, it has got a name of its own. It's called The Chain.
Musical intros.
Maybe what we should do, right, is when we come out of another break, we'll play you the song from the start.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, be able to hear it. But anyway, the point is that the reason we played that was in tribute to one of the greatest ever motor racing drivers this country's produced, Nigel Mansell.
Oh, yes.
Who is 64 today.
Where is Nigel Mansell these days? You don't see him around, do you? Is he one of those guys that went off to live on a sort of place like the Channel Islands or the Isle of Man or something like that?
No, he definitely had a place in the Isle of Man. I know that because I had to send somebody once out to go and see him. and they never found him, actually. And
so he wasn't there?
He wasn't. Well, no, his place was there. His
operation from the Parry news desk.
Yeah, that's right, yeah, his place was there. But then I think he had, like, either a golf club or a hotel or a estate or something in the West Country. These guys have
Actually, I think you're right. I think he's a big golfer, and I think you're right to say, I think he had a golf course down in Devon or something.
That's right,
didn't he?
something like that, yeah. And we fell out once because, in the season he won the World Championship, he won the first 5 races. I mean, he just absolutely streaked away.
He was a great driver, wasn't he?
He was a brilliant driver and hugely successful. But then, like a lot of drivers, including Michael Schumacher, whose life, of course, turned out so tragically in the end, but a couple of years later, I'm not sure if he was coming back into motor racing or whether he did it for a promotion or something.
He went over to America for a bit as well, didn't he?
Well, he was
IndyCar racing.
He won IndyCar racing. I mean, he was brilliant.
Yeah.
He won the Formula One World Motor Racing Championship and then went to IndyCar racing and won that as well. He was a brilliant driver. Yeah. But about 2 years later, I think, or 2 years later, he had to get back into his car. And it was either for a promotion or a one-off race or something like that. But he couldn't get in because he put weight on. And these cars are like moulded around the body of the driver, you know what I mean, so to speak. And he simply couldn't get back in. And we wrote a story about it. He got very upset.
Well, that was probably a bit cruel of him.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we're only making a sort of observation. But anyway, he was a great guy and a great British hero. Now,
a couple of people were remarking on your interview technique with Frederick Forsyth, right?
Yes.
Rob says, so Porky will abbreviate other guest names, but he has to call this guy Frederick.
Yes.
Double standards.
Yes.
And Andy says, Porky just said, not only is it a fact, it's actually true. What a plank.
Yeah,
well, Andy, if you understood anything about Porky, what you would know is that he quite often will reel off a whole list of facts which actually aren't true.
No.
So that's why he said it with such surprise.
Don't be ridiculous.
Because normally speaking, most of the ones that he uses are actually not at all true. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. And somebody here called A-Her, that's their handle. A-Her!
All right.
Yeah, it's a handle. He says, top guest, Frederick Forsyth. Keep him on, boys, whenever you're talking. Works so well. The flock will follow. Thank you very much indeed.
I think he's trying to say that Frederick Forsyth was quite hard to interrupt.
Well, you did constantly try to interrupt him, which annoys me, actually. Whenever a great guest on, and you're always trying to sort of stick your nose in.
Well, you just don't like people interrupting, except for if you're interrupting. That's the problem.
No, that's
and
not
I mean,
true.
there are certain people, and I've got a great deal of time for Frederick Forsyth. I think he had some interesting things to say.
Yes.
But there are some guests who are so vituperative that if you don't interrupt them, you never get a word in.
Well, that's absolutely true. We have had people like that, haven't we?
And it is our show, after all.
It is our show, you're right. Now, what I was going to say was, I have just put out a little tweet, which is rather fun, because it shows a street in Dundee.
Oh, yeah.
Where
Dundee! The home of jute.
It's jute
and
here
jam.
from Dundee. And
the Beano, of course.
And the Beano, DC Thompson.
Yes.
Headquarters of. Yeah. And what it shows is it shows somebody from one of those teams that mark the white lines down the middle of the road.
Oh, yeah.
It's gone slightly wonky.
Yes, I saw that picture.
Yeah.
It does look a bit odd, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I suggested that maybe the line marking department in Dundee had done it after a lunchtime bladderation session.
They may well have done.
Because it's all over the place and it's got to be redrawn.
Do you think they were on the Speyside malts? Is that what you're telling me?
Speyside malt.
Is it possible, by the way? Is it well, maybe it's supposed to be Tayside if it was for Dundee. Is it possible that whoever was doing it, do you know how when you're trying to park on a bend, you try and like align the wheels up? It's almost impossible to do.
It is impossible,
Do you think sometimes when the guys are doing that kind of road, that they're like looking at the side?
Yeah, they can't quite get round.
To try and make sure that they're in the same line as the curb.
Well,
it looks a bit like they've tried to do that and failed miserably.
It does, but it's so wonky that I came to the conclusion that, they weren't walking in a straight line themselves, and that's why the white line was in a straight line.
No, indeed. Now, a bit of information for you from Mark.
Yes.
It says B&M Bargains was founded by Billington and Mayman.
I've just seen that. Yeah, that's great.
So I don't know who they are, but
I think it's now owned by a couple of Indian businessmen who
I thought you
bought
said
it.
that Leahy was in charge.
No, Leahy's the chairman of the company.
Oh, I see.
But and I think he's got a substantial holding in terms of shares and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the actual owners, and they own hundreds of millions of pounds worth of the company, if you see what I mean, are two very bright Indian businessmen.
Okay. Rodney says, MG's right about Porky and the Rolex. I noticed it straight away every time you guys were on Sky News. Hashtag loves to flash the cash.
No.
You do?
No.
And how about this from Neil? He says, 20,000 for a totally pointless letter. God knows how much for the snobby Rolex.
Well, listen, that letter, by the way, I've got round to telling you about it.
Where is it being auctioned, by the way?
It's been auctioned in a place called, I think it's Robbins Auction Houses or something like that. I mean,
don't know that one.
Let me get back to my information sheet where I found it in the first place. The point is that the reason it's so blinking interesting is because it's Lennon saying that. What he basically says in his letter is, she said in the book, that, John got into LSD and then met Yoko Ono. That was the end of my marriage. He says in this letter, our marriage was over a long time before that. Don't feel bitter. We had some good years and all that kind of stuff. Just dwell on the good years. And it's just a fascinating document to me. A fascinating document. Your memory is impaired, to say the least.
How far will you go in your quest to acquire it?
Well, I can't tell you that, can I? Because if I tell you that, then the auctioneer knows I've got a mug here who's going to go up to, X Factor, OK?
But also, you don't have to stick to that. I mean, if you say I'm willing to go to 30k,
well,
you don't have to, do you?
The spokesman for RR Auction said, as Lennon's official side of the story, a public he said, she said, and we've got all that. But anyway, it's going to be auctioned very soon. And I'm going to think very seriously about getting in there.
All right.
It's the letter measures 8.5 inches by 11 inches.
Yeah, all right.
And it was signed by John.
Well, he wrote it then.
He wrote it, yeah, with a small sketch of his face that he put on the bottom of it.
Across the UK, online and on DAB.
The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
Now, you probably recognise that, don't you?
Yeah, of course I do.
But you probably didn't know or didn't realise that that's the start of the chain.
No. Well, I knew it was
the start. And it then moves into that song that we all now associate with Formula One.
Exactly. I knew it was the start of a great, Fleetwood Mac track. Is that Off Rumours?
I think it is,
I think it's Off Rumours, yeah. And I don't always know the title of the songs, but brilliant.
Yes, no, that's what I'm saying. But I mean, it's not unusual for somebody not to realise that the first part that you heard is actually connected to that part.
Oh no, I knew that because I used to listen to Rumours endlessly. I knew that it drifted from that into the Formula One music. I didn't really notice the change, to be honest. But for years, that great song by R.E.M., "Losing My Religion."
Yes,
I had no idea it was called "Losing My Religion."
Didn't you? What do you think it was called?
I thought it was called "That's Me in the Corner."
Oh right. Why would you call it that? That's me in the corner.
Because part of the lyrics is "That's me in the corner."
Yeah, but that's not the chorus, though.
Eh?
That's not the chorus.
No, I know, but I didn't realise that "Losing My Religion" was the chorus. I thought it was just another line in the song.
Okay.
So I kept saying to people, this is a great new song. And they kept saying, which song?
Yeah.
I said, "That's me in the corner." And everybody gave me blank looks. And I thought,
people should have realised there's only one song that's got that in the lyrics.
Exactly. And I thought, why are these people idiots?
Yeah. Bob Dylan's songs are bad for that, though, because he has songs named after nothing at all.
Yeah.
By
the way.
Like Rainy Day Woman.
Rainy Day Woman, that's right, yeah.
The line in it is "Everybody must get stoned," and that's what you think the song's called. But it's not.
Yeah, well, like a Rolling Stone, if you know what I mean. That's the chorus of that song, isn't it?
Well, no, Like a Rolling Stone has Like a Rolling Stone in it.
What I was going to say to you was...
I'm telling you that some of his songs don't have the words of the title in the song.
And I'm going to ask you about a Bob Dylan song.
Bob Dylan?
Bob Dylan. A Bob Dylan song, which appears to have been turned into a play at the Old Vic Theatre.
The Old Vic, yeah.
Where it says words and lyrics and songs by Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
What's it called?
I can't remember the name of it now.
It's at the...
is it North Country Girl or something like that?
Yeah, I think it is.
Something like that.
North Country
Girl from the North Country.
Girl from the North Country.
Yeah.
That's what. Is that a Bob Dylan song?
It is.
Oh well, there you go. So it's been turned into a stage play. Yeah.
I'll tell you what I've also seen a poster for is Sienna Miller in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, which I'd quite like to see actually.
Sienna Miller.
You know who Sienna Miller is, right?
Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, written by Tennessee Williams.
The very same.
And made
which
famous.
Originally starred Paul Newman and Elizabeth Taylor.
I was about to say, I was going to say Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor, but it was, of course, Paul Newman.
No, you're thinking of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf.
I am indeed. And it's about some deep South racial tension type thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's not so much about... No, the Cat on a Hot Tin Roof is more about internal family tension.
Internal family tension.
It's not a racial thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, now it's time for this.
When I was younger, so much younger than today, I never needed anybody's help in any way. Now these days are gone, I'm not so...
Now that music, of course, you are very familiar with. It is Help, which is also in the title as well as being in the chorus.
Indeed.
Now, we've got quite a lot of questions to get through. This is Ask Porky. For those of you who've never heard it before, this is where you, the great public, get to send in tweets and Facebook messages to Talk Radio, and we will try and Porky will try and answer them as quickly and as concisely as possible. Number one question from Richard. Porky, who or what are you going to leave all your money and properties to when the time comes?
I hope I'll have spent it all by the time I go.
Really?
Yes.
Is that your plan?
This is my plan. I'm thinking of liquidating property, actually. It's been a plan I've been formulating for 2 or 3 months. I'm going to buy things like Aston Martins and that sort of stuff.
Well, how many Aston Martins could you buy?
Well, you only need one, obviously, but I mean, that sort of stuff.
Well, you buy me one if you like.
Well, I might.
All right.
I might.
Danny says this: I'm flying out to your New York show from England and wondered if Porky thinks I should get on the bladderation trail once I land.
No, you should get on the bladderation trail before you take off.
Yeah, right.
Because that's the whole idea of having a weekend away, you know, with the magnificent prospect of landing in New York City. Get going, boy, as soon as you can.
Tom says this: my mate Tim is just back from 2 years in Vancouver. He currently feels like a loser in life. How does he turn his life around?
Well, I don't know why he feels like a loser. Vancouver's a magnificent city, and, you know, when you look at the forests that cover the valleys that go down into Vancouver Harbour and all that kind of stuff, it's a brilliant place to have lived. If your mate feels like a loser, then all I've got to do is repeat my mantra. If you're not winning, it's because you're not trying hard enough. Shake yourself out of it and get going.
Absolutely right. Joe says, Porky, should I get rid of my diesel motor and go electric hybrid now, or wait a few more years?
Well, I wouldn't go electric hybrid at all. I think the whole thing is such a flawed plot. There's not going to be enough electricity around. However, I have just ordered a new car, and it is petrol as opposed to diesel, because I'm very worried that we've all been conned into the
Well, you're
diesel.
Going to be paying more tax on the diesel.
Yeah. Diesel engines are cleaner fiasco foisted upon us by Gordon Brown.
Indeed. Mark says, would Mr. Parry ever put tomato sauce or brown sauce on a Sunday roast?
No, never. I'm sorry, but Sunday roast is pure enough for me. If it's lamb, you put mint sauce on. If it's beef, you can have a bit of horseradish if you like.
Mustard, maybe?
A little bit of mustard, certainly, but no, not imposing sauces like HP or Heinz. Much as I like them on bacon and sausage, not on a roast.
Glenn, a slightly longer question. 7 years ago, I witnessed 5 UFOs in the skies over Halifax, West Yorkshire. There were 6 other witnesses aged from 16 to 40 years of age, and no bladderation involved. After watching these objects perform impossible aerobatic manoeuvres in complete silence for around 10 minutes and with actual video evidence, were we being visited by life from another planet, or were we witnessing super advanced high-tech military technology?
No, the answer is no.
Well, he said he's making it up.
No, you're not making it up. You're just deluded. And send us the video, please, and we'll have a look at it. Why haven't you sent it to experts for them to examine it?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Jane says, just want to ask Mr. Parry if he's bought MG his birthday present yet.
I'm working on it, and I don't want to give too much away, but of course, MG's birthday tomorrow. I will be bringing it in, and we will be, I can tell you in advance, filming the opening of my present to MG.
Oh, very kind. Dear Porky, says Max, the council are stealing our barge pub, which has been in the river for years upon years, and is a lovely little place to get a bevy, so they can put up a cinema, which isn't needed, as we have one 15 minutes away. How do we save our pub?
Does it say what?
He doesn't say where it is,
okay.
no.
Well, I'm all for, lovely little pubs. There used to be one near where MG lives called the Wibbly Wobbly, which was a barge, which was turned into a pub and used to feel the water moving below you. Nice, quaint little pubs like that. But I'm afraid in the modern world, if commercially it doesn't make money, it's not going to last. OK.
Now, I'm being told that time is of the essence, so we're going to actually stop for a moment. Okay. But we're going to take more questions.
Good idea.
After this, right here on Talk Radio.
Across the UK, online and on DAB.
The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
When I was younger, so much younger than today, I never needed anybody's help in any way.
Incredibly, the producer thinks we should carry on with this,
yeah,
right?
Well,
I mean, Ask Porky's normally one section. You're getting more today because we've had so many questions.
I've often been called the fourth emergency service.
Really?
Yes.
Are you sure that you've not been called anything else?
I've been called lots of other things, but the fourth emergency service will do.
OK, well, let's go with this one from Lee.
Okay.
My engineering job, Porky, has become unbearable due to many aspects, including downsizing, poor wages, unreasonable demands, politics and health and safety. But I love the guys I work with. Should I jump ship or try and stick it out as to not leave my remaining colleagues in the mire?
Well, to be honest, I would not stick it out. If you're unhappy with your own life, I'm afraid it's every man for himself in life, you know, and it sounds noble of you to stick around and say, I've got to see it out for my mates. Would your mates see it out for you? I've found that in life, sometimes when you do a favour for a friend, far from them thanking you for it, they actually quite resent it, and it comes back to bite you on the arse. So I would get out and get on with your own life.
Family show this.
Yes.
Kieran says, can you ask Porky where I can find this tarama tomata salata that he was banging on about yesterday?
It's Tara Masalata. Tara Masalata, OK. And I saw an episode of Coronation Street last night that what they say in Greek restaurants is, try a Tara Masalata, it could be your favourite starter.
Is that what they say in Greek restaurants?
Yes.
I've never heard that.
Yes.
I've never heard that.
Well, it's the only word that rhymes with Tara Masalata, starter.
Starter?
Yes.
Barter?
No. In the context of dining. Let's get on.
Okay. Robin says, Porky, I'm going to one of your old stomping grounds, Newcastle upon Tyne, next month. Can you recommend the top 3 things to do or see while I'm there?
Yes. A, book into the Sandman Hotel. B, then go into the... What's the bar called?
Sorry, that's a rather rude suggestion in my ear, which I can't repeat.
OK.
Carry on.
What's the bar called on the ground floor?
Oh, the Shark Bar.
The Shark Bar.
Yeah.
Because the people
You were rather taken by the young ladies in there, weren't you?
The people who run the Shark Bar are some of the best-looking people in this country, right? And then, third of all, what you have to do when you go to Newcastle upon Tyne is get yourself a bar with a great view of the Tyne Bridge and sink a couple of pints of Newcastle Brown.
OK. Kelly says this. If you could slap 3 people without fear or recrimination, who would you choose?
Well, I wouldn't slap anybody without fear of recrimination, because that would be like tying their hands behind their back to a chair and then beating them up, which is cowardly and not something I would do. There are a long list of people in this world who I'd like to give a good talking to.
Really?
It's a one-to-one basis, and I'm afraid that remains within my little black book.
Indeed. Sam says, Porky, if you were to find the first Mrs. Parry, would MG be your best man?
Well,
I hope not.
A, it's never going to happen, and B, after that dismissive and very rude interjection, no, you never will be, because the problem is you have the morals of an alley cat.
You'd get that violent nephew of yours to do it, maybe.
I'd get my violent nephew to pick it by the throat, throw you over a hedge, but you would also be, squirreling around trying to find out what was happening with the bridesmaids.
I see. Bob says this, Porky, if you could choose any other Mike, past or present, to fill in for MG for the week to carry on being the 2 Mikes, who would it be?
Probably Michael Vaughan.
Michael
who is
Vaughan?
the former England captain.
Really?
And yes,
friends of his, are you?
Yes, exchange notes sometimes.
You've never told me that before.
Yes, have a bit of banter on Twitter and all that. Great man from the north, great boy from the north, and he would make an ideal broadcasting partner.
Is that right?
Yes.
Another one from Kelly. If you could change the course of history, which 5 things would you choose to alter?
Oh, that's too long a list, I'm sorry.
Well, how about one?
Okay, the one that I would change is that I would make sure that the First World War never started, because it was a complete fiasco, an utter shambles. It was done because one empire was growing while another was falling apart, and I would, with hindsight, get involved in a situation which made it never happen. The most appalling war in history.
Wrong Star says, did you see the BBC's piece on Caster Semenya minutes before the 1500 metres final? Shocking. Would like to hear your view.
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, it would have been the athletics. I guess you weren't watching that.
No, I wasn't. No,
so that's just a no then.
Yeah, it's a no.
And then final question. This is from somebody calling himself Court Jester.
Right.
Where can I get some Porky scratchings? I live in Greater Manchester, not too far from Wigan, and I want to try them.
Okay, well, the company that produces them is called Fresh Foods. And
well, you don't have to give them an advert. You just tell the guy where to go.
Sorry, it's called Fresher Foods, and Openshaws.
Well, why are you doing it
again?
The
subsidiary. I'm not.
You're not allowed to do that.
Listen, the chap is asking where he can get them.
Yeah, well, can't you tell him to go to a pub and get them somewhere?
No, I'm saying ring up and they will give you a list of local outlets, pubs, shops, all that kind of stuff. Or if you live in Essex, there's 1,000 outlets in Essex.
He's in Manchester.
Yeah, I know, but he might be travelling through Essex at some stage.
All right, so you go to Essex, basically, I think is the answer to that.
Not too far.
And you'll find them everywhere. That was, of course, Ask Porky. We'll have more of the same this time next week.
We will.
The 21st century dream team of dialogue, debate and discourse. The 2 Mikes on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
Now, I've got a lot of tweets here. One from James, who says, Leon the Solent is not Gosport. You couldn't pay me to live there. No offence, Porky. I consider a penthouse, perhaps. This is because one of his mates was saying he doesn't live in Leon Solent. He actually lives in Gosport. He just doesn't want to admit it.
No. Leon Solent is controlled by Gosport Borough Council.
So does he live in Gosport, then?
Well, he lives in the borough of Gosport, but in Leon Solent. Yeah.
Here's one from Stretch, who says, in Philippines with my new daughter, Hayley, South China Sea oil and gas battles are taking place in in Manila. It's not about shipping lanes. And there's a picture of him raising a cocktail glass to you.
OK. Why has he told us all that?
Because he's in Manila, and he's just had a new daughter, and there's a picture of her lying next to him.
Oh,
and
right.
He's talking about the oil and gas battles taking place in the South China Sea.
Excellent.
Which I don't know much about.
Thriller in Manila.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
Positively 4th Street is a Bob Dylan song where the title of the song is not mentioned in the song either.
Right, OK. What's that Bob Dylan song where he stands in an alleyway in New York and just has all the cardboard...
That's the one.
What's it called?
That's the one, Positively 4th Street, I think.
Oh, really? Is it?
I think so, yeah.
And are those words on the cards, which he just keeps throwing to the ground, are they the lyrics of the song, or are they just random
Yeah, they're
statements?
lyrics of the song, yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ali says this...
Do you know who else did that? Yoko Ono did that on Top of the Pops.
Well, she stole it from him, didn't she?
Yeah, she did, and she was blindfolded at the time.
Blindfolded?
Yeah, she was blindfolded. She sat on a stool blindfolded while Lennon was banging away on the old organ.
How bizarre.
Yeah.
Ali says Nigel Mansell was a special constable on the Isle of
That's
Man,
right.
and in Devon, during and after his racing career, opened a golf course there.
In Devon, that's right.
Simon says, so Nigel Mansell's on the long list of people that Mike Parry's fallen out with. At least he isn't another golfer.
Yes, well, I'm sorry, these sort of things happen, you know what I mean?
In our show, I was thinking about this last night, so I must tell you before I forget.
Right.
I think we have to do a sort of rogues gallery of people that you've upset when we do our show in New York.
Well, look, if you've been any good as a journalist during your life, particularly in the print world in the 80s and the 90s, if you didn't upset people, you weren't doing your job properly.
That's true. That is very true. I would certainly endorse that.
Yes. Listen, I've just heard you tell me something which I've got to share with our audience.
You've just heard me telling you something.
Yes,
well, that's useful because we're doing a radio show together.
That's right, but it was when we were kind
think
of
everybody
off-air.
else has heard it as well?
No, well, they haven't, you see. This is the point,
Oh, I
because we
see.
were off-air, and this is
right.
why I'm going to share it with the audience.
Are you sure this is something that's for public consumption?
You always try to make out how urbane you are, you know, how your life is constantly...
Urbane?
Yeah. And you're
I wouldn't say that. You see, you've got this kind of complex about the fact that I'm somehow better than you.
No, I haven't.
And I don't feel like that. I don't go around saying I'm better than you.
No, I don't think you're better than me.
No, you do.
No, I don't.
You do. You look up to me. You secretly admire me.
Oh, yeah.
You wish that you were more like me.
Well, I'll never come to you for a loan, put it that way, OK?
Well, you don't need a loan, do you?
No, I don't need a loan.
I mean, the one thing you've got plenty
so why
of...
would I look up to you?
The one you've got plenty... The one thing you've got plenty of is money.
No, that's not true.
But look, it hasn't helped you in life.
I don't know why you tell people that. But anyway...
Well, you just told me you're going to pay 20 grand for a letter.
Well, I might.
And you own a Rolex, and you're going to buy a load of Aston Martins before you die.
No, that would be an investment if I paid 20 grand for a letter, because that letter would be worth 40 grand by the time that...
By the time you pass on.
By the time I pass on.
Yes.
What I was going to say is that, you know, this urbane guy, man about town, real sophisticated and all that.
I don't pretend to be that.
You just told me you spent an hour the other night watching a programme on a bloke making a biscuit.
I did, yeah. Yeah, it's that guy from the Great British... Is it the Great British Baker? Paul Hollywood, yeah. Well, he's got a...
His dad was a baker, you know.
I think he was, yeah. I think he was. Well, he does a series now, which is all about food, because obviously the BBC have worked out that food is the big thing.
Well, you'd think
and
so,
everybody wants to watch programmes about food. And so he was visiting a biscuit factory, and it was all about how they made basically chocolate digestives.
Was it his biscuit factory?
No.
No, I see.
No, I presume it was, you know, the people that make chocolate digestives biscuit factory.
What
I don't know if it was McVitie's
but,
or
I mean,
what
was what we would call the peg for this story? I mean, don't just take a camera crew into a chocolate digestive factory and say, here, let's watch the production line.
No, but I think he's got the series is based on going to sort of factories where they make food.
Okay.
And seeing how certain types of food are made.
That's interesting.
Well, it can be. I mean, I remember when my kids used to watch Teletubbies, right? Yes. One of the great things about Teletubbies was when they'd stopped cavorting around in the sort of fake world that they lived in.
Yes.
I can see you're looking at me like you've gone down completely
No,
off
sorry,
the scale.
I can't get Teletubbies and production lines in.
Well, because they used to always do a kind of educational little film for the kids of how to make or how things are made. You know, like how chocolate fingers are made or how, I don't know, cows are milked or something like that.
Okay.
And they worked out very cleverly that children, especially young children, like to watch something over and over again.
Oh, okay.
So they would play this thing like about 4 times during the same show.
Really?
And the kids who were watching it are just staring at it because they've seen it before, they point at it and think it's great. This is the same kind of thing. It's kind of, mesmerising to watch hundreds and thousands of biscuits being put on a sort of trolley and being fed through a chocolate machine.
It's funny you should say that because one of the first things I did when I...
Why are you whispering?
Well, because I'm sharing something with you.
Yeah.
When I entered the world of Porky scratchings, was go to the factory.
Well, isn't there not a video of that knocking around? Is it not on our website?
Yeah, there are some videos around. And what I did was I got into the factory and I followed the production process right the way through from the farm where the pigs are, right?
I mean, you didn't watch them being killed.
No, I didn't, but I saw where they came from, so I could assure myself that it was all high-quality stuff and all done very humanely.
Oh, yeah.
Until there were slabs of pork going into the factory, going through the mincing machines, all that kind of stuff, then being turned into porky scratchings, then being sifted through all the process, then being packaged, put into packets, the packets put into boxes, the boxes put into the vans,
So you lost the-
and
I've
out,
lost the will
and
to
out
live
into
now.
the wide world go the porky scratchings.
Okay.
It was fascinating.
Except nobody can tell you where to get them. That's the problem.
Don't be ridiculous. They're available in plenty of places and will be available in many more places soon.
Can we not turn the show into a commercial for them, though?
Well, I don't know.
I have no interest in them
Plenty of
whatsoever.
pictures of them on my website.
Plus,
Yeah.
what do you mean your website?
Well, the Two Mics website.
Oh, there's a bit of a Freudian slip.
No,
John,
no,
welcome.
I noticed that. I noticed that.
Yes.
Yes, that's
Well,
right,
it's
yeah.
very difficult. I mean, you're lucky, right? You don't have to work with anybody else. Although you have got Paul Conyer with you today, which is a bit of a
Oh,
drawback.
yeah, Paul,
He's an old friend of ours, so
He's
do
very
give
old
him our
colleague.
regards. Give
Decent
him our
man.
best.
Great guy.
Well, a
You know,
very
he
good
once,
afternoon to you both.
Thank you very much indeed.
How nice to see you.
You know
Thanks,
what you
sir.
must ask him about, right?
What's that?
Because Paul Conyer famously went to Las Vegas once to cover a boxing match, I think it was. And in the old days, you had to dictate your copy down the phone. And he actually fell asleep while he was dictating his own story.
No.
He did.
No.
He did.
Really?
And he only got halfway through it.
Yeah.
Because it had been one of those days where quite a lot of drink had been taken.
Right.
I mean,
And
he's told me-
didn't they shout wakey wakey at
Well,
him?
they were shouting for
and
quite
he just
some
was
time.
he's just dribbling his way through.
Yeah, but he woke up about an hour later.
And of course, the deadlines are critical at that time
Yeah.
of night because you're 8 hours difference from Las
Exactly.
Vegas to London. They're waiting to put the last edition away.
Yes.
Yes.
So he's a very fine man, anyway.
Yeah.
How are you?
Well, I'm fine, actually.
Good.
Today we're going to be looking at early deaths, why people in the north of England die younger than people in the south of England.
Yeah.
Because apparently since 1965, 1.2 million people have died in the north of England before the age of 75, more than people in the south.
Do you think it might be they just don't like living there?
Well, I think it's what they eat.
Really?
Partly,
Drink. Yes.
Well, a bit of drink, but also
There's
eating.
a big drug problem up there as well, I think, isn't there?
Do you know, I remember as a kid looking at very old people in the street and my dad explaining the reason they had bandy legs was because of poor nutrition.
Rickets
Because
and all that,
they had rickets.
Yeah.
And then those old people died.
Right.
And it wasn't quite so easy to spot who was rich and who was poor.
Yes.
But I remember going back home after living abroad for a while and noticing that people had become a lot larger.
Yes.
In poorer areas of the country, and it's poor diet. So of course that's bound to be bad for your heart.
I think some of that is evolution as well, though. I mean, if you look at a doorway in the 1600s, it's much lower than a doorway now because we have as a race got bigger as the centuries have gone by, haven't we?
It's true, but if you notice that the people who are poorer are often fatter and also wee, they're not as tall. The wealthier kids are the taller ones, and the smaller kids, the poorer kids are the smaller ones. So I'm looking at that. I'm also looking at that story in Australia of the boy who was half eaten by killer shrimp.
MG spotted this one.
So we're going to be looking at how much danger there is if you go paddling.
They obviously need to put them on the Barbie instead of letting them swim around.
Yeah, that's right.
The amazing thing is he just didn't notice as he was being chewed away. He didn't notice.
Well, sometimes you don't. That, of course, is all coming up very shortly. We are the Two Mics. We will be back tomorrow. This is Talk Radio.
Across the UK, online and on DAB.
The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.